she's going to stay to make her mom's. Oh, yeah. You don't have to. I got your picture. I'm Simone.
Erica. We met.
That's right. Yes, I remember. You did the floor plan there. Yeah. We're ready. With everybody here.
All right. Welcome to the October 8th, 2024 City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
The record will reflect that Councilmember Avery is currently absent.
But I'm
I believe
sure
he's on
we'll
his
be
way.
here soon. All right, so we'll go into current business. Item number 1, clarification of items on the consent calendar. Councilmember Kleiman. The clarification of consent calendar items.
I have none, thank you.
Councilmember Blom.
I have none, thank you.
Councilmember Weigand.
None for me.
Councilmember Grant.
None.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I have none.
All right. So we're going to move into item number 2, proclamation for Kaylee Gilchrist. Kaylee, if you could come on forward. Yep. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read a proclamation, and then I've got a couple things that I wanted to add on to it, and if anyone else did, they can as well. And then you're welcome to say whatever you'd like, and then we'll make sure to take a picture. But just wanted to say thank you for agreeing to come in and be celebrated. It's really cool. So on the proclamation side, whereas Kaylee Gilchrist was born in Newport Beach, California in 1992 to parents Sandy and Jenny Gilchrist, and whereas the Olympic genes were strong, with her father, aunt, and uncle all competing in 2 Olympic Games, and whereas she graduated from Newport Harbor High School, having won CIF on the water polo team in 2008, and back-to-back Surfing America titles in 2009 and 2010, when she was crowned as the best 18 and under female surfer in America, and whereas, not surprisingly, she was named the Orange County Register Athlete of the Year in 2010, and whereas Gilchrist attended the University of Southern California, where she co-captained the 2013 NCAA Women's Water Polo Championship team and also earned a national title for USC at the National Scholastic Surfing Association Collegiate Championships. And whereas Gilchrist joined the U.S. National Water Polo team in 2014, where she subsequently represented the United States at the 2016, 2020, and 2024 Summer Olympic Games, where the American squad won gold medals in 2016 and 2020. And whereas, in addition to Olympic Games medals, Gilchrist also competed for gold medal winning U.S. national water polo teams at the World Aquatics Championships in 2015, 2019, 2022, and 2024, and the FINA Women's Water Polo World Cup in 2023. And whereas Gilchrist is also an entrepreneur, hang on. How many of you own them? Here we go. Amazing. Also an entrepreneur with multiple companies started such as I Miss South Central and Camps for Champs. And whereas Gilchrist announced her retirement from the sport of water polo on August 15th, 2024, and whereas Gilchrist married the love of her life, Thomas Garrett, on August 24th, 2024, now therefore I, Will O'Neill, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and citizens of Newport Beach, do hereby recognize and celebrate Kaylee Gilchrist on her truly spectacular, world-beating athletic career and stand alongside her in her future endeavors. Congratulations. So, quick story. So, a lot of you out in the audience have kids that have gone through the junior lifeguard program. And a lot of you know how hard it is, especially that first time, to go through and qualify for the time that's required. My daughter, her name's Aubrey. She was struggling actually with the first go round. So I actually reached out directly to Kaylee and asked her, would you be willing to make a video for my daughter as an inspiration to just say, hey, look, like it's tough, but you can do it. And she did it. And I can tell you, and all of you out there who know this, when someone does something really cool for one of your kids, you never forget it. That was really nice of you. And so I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated that as a father, and then certainly as mayor of the city to have you and your legacy here in our city. So Mike is yours if you would like it. But I just wanted to say, Kaylee, congratulations. We're so proud of you. So go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the city council members and to the city of Newport Beach. This community has had such a profound impact on my life and obviously my athletic life, but life in general. I learned to swim at the Balboa Bay Club, was a member of the junior lifeguard program, was coached by the late great Coach Bill Barnett in Newport Harbor High School, and I felt the support as I went on to USC and onto the national team, and I just can't thank you enough, just full of gratitude to be a member of this community, and I know you all will continue to support me in whatever my next chapter holds. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, hang on. Two things. Number one, this year I made coins again for the Battle of the Bay, so I'm going to make sure you get one. I know which side you're going to appreciate more. And then we're going to go ahead and go take a picture down there.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome.
Get in a little bit closer here at the end. Yeah, right here. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. It did work. Yes. It wasn't needed.
Our Mayor Pro Tem was asking how he got that jacket. The answer is, be way more athletic, Joe.
Well, I also did say, imagine if you had a community pool you could have learned to swim in.
I see what you did there. So we'll go ahead and move into item number 3, which is recommendations made by the City Council Ad Hoc Committee on proposed aquatic complex at the Lower Castaways Park site. So we'll go ahead and I'll start with Simone.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Mayor O'Neill and City Council members. Simone Georges, Assistant City Manager. With me is we have a number of staff members from the Public Works Department, Recreation and Senior Services Department, Community Development Department, and a number of our consultants. We have a large group of people collaborating with the Ad Hoc Committee. This evening, we're going to talk about the Ad Hoc Committee's recommendations for the Lower Castaways Park. The Ad Hoc Committee members are Mayor Pro Tem Joe Stapleton, Councilmember Robin Grant, and Councilmember Noah Blum. The recommendations is to develop an aquatic pool complex at Lower Castaway Park. This allows us to consolidate our swim programs both at the Corona Del Mar High School and Newport Harbor High School into Lower Castaway Park, and also to expand the programming opportunities for the constituents. We'll have a detailed explanation of how to do all that. At the end of the presentation, staff is going to recommend us moving forward with the entitlement process and next steps with regarding to structural funding for public-private partnerships. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Tom Sandifer, Assistant City Engineer.
Thank you, Simone. Like Simone said, I'm Tom Sandifer, Assistant City Engineer with your Public Works Department. And if you are unfamiliar with the site, Lower Castaways is an undeveloped 4 acres here at the intersection of Dover Drive and Coast Highway. Historically, this is the place where Newport Beach was started. It was the first landing area for Newport Beach. It had a wharf there. Through the years, it had other uses. There was a marina there. There was a campsite there. Currently, it is mostly used for boat storage, provided on lease to various boating groups, and as city project construction staging area. So that is its current use. When we're looking at what to do on this site, there is a large demand for pool time in the city. The city is very aquatic oriented. Currently, we have agreements with the 2 high schools, Newport Harbor and Corona Del Mar, to use their pools. But it's limited in the hours, and the amount of time that we have available is greatly stripped by the demand that for pool time. Here's just a visual representation. Those big red squares are the locations of the high schools. That's where the pools are, and that little blue square would be the proposed aquatic complex. The site comes with certain constraints. It's not a perfect site, but it has a storm drain line running through it. Obviously, Caltrans right-of-way is in that coast highway area. There's probably some environmentally sensitive habitat as you go up the hill towards Upper Castaways. And there's a large water line easement that runs along the toe of that slope that needs to be preserved and kept clear. In addition, there's some other things that we need to consider. The Irvine Company, when it gave us the lands, limited the types of uses for that land and required some level of review on their behalf. And there's, of course, traffic impacts with any development that we would have to take a look at. So what we did was we took all of that information, gave it to our architect, and he came up with some concepts. And so I'm going to introduce Larry Ryan from RGAM, and he's going to walk us through his ideas and the construction.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's been our pleasure to work with staff. When you first see this site and you get the context of it, you realize it's really a special opportunity and something to be really cherished from a design standpoint, and trying to really maximize the benefit that this area will have for the overall Newport community. We went through a variety of studies, and it's a challenging site, and we've pretty well, it's got a lot of amenities out there. The building, the various pool, water bodies, the parking, it's chock full. And we have a virtual simulation that we'd like to share with you. This looks like a phaser. I'm not sure what button to push. Thank you.
There's a little music that goes with it, but Larry, you can take us through what we're seeing.
Yeah. We're now coming off of Dover. This is the main vehicular access. There's a convenient drop-off pickup area here for parents picking up their kids being dropped off. That's a 50-meter pool there to the right. We're now going up in the air a little bit to get an overview of the site, showing the parking lot to the west, the pool water bodies to the east. This is about a 360 square foot splash spray area, interactive. This is the therapy pool. Each of the pool areas have cabanas for use for the users, for actual rental potential. This is the hand launch area that we've still provided for on site, tucked it in a little more efficiently and showing how it relates to the overall site development. It's a view from the water, obviously, showing the building, its massing. A lot of care and effort went into opening up the building for views out to the bay area. The building area is approximately 9,600 square feet, which includes the traditional lockers, shower areas, support, equipment storage, such for the pool area and the pool equipment. It also has, the building has an upper level that has a multi-purpose room. It's a large room that can be divisible. The overall room size for the multi-purpose is approximately 1,980 square feet. That's divisible in half, so two 900 plus or minus square foot areas. There's a warming kitchen for use if there was a special event or a rental that was taking place. I mentioned the three water bodies. We have a 50-meter pool, a therapy pool, which allows for warmer water temperatures for those type of activities, and that's approximately 1,369 square feet. And then a splash spray area that was shown is approximately 360 square feet. We have 189 parking stalls on site with convenient drop-off access, pickup. I mentioned there's a view of the upper patio deck that comes off the multipurpose room. The deck area is approximately, let's see, approximately 1,030 square feet. So it's pretty sizable to get a nice overview of the upper pool area there, as well as the bay behind. And that concludes the presentation, and I'm available in the audience to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Larry.
Now we're gonna move into the benefits of a community pool. So, as Tom mentioned, we have agreements with Newport Mesa right now for running programs at Newport Harbor and Marion Birdson Aquatic Center at CDM. And what that equates to is swim lessons during the summer, during the day, at both pools, and year-round having lap swim at CDM from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and on the weekends from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. So that's what we have now. And we share space, and there's a lot of working with coaches and swim teams and trying to get everybody what they need when they want it. But there's a lot of demand out there in the community for more time on both sides, on the competitive side and the community side. Also, the other benefit would be the addition of a therapy pool. We've been hearing for a long time from the senior community in this town that they want a therapy pool. This isn't a new concept. This has been going on for at least a decade. The senior community has been asking for this. The benefit of a therapy pool is it's warmer. So that's always at a pool. There's the temperature, and the high school pools they are made for competition. So that's a cooler temperature because people are getting hot. Like Kaylee, doing egg beaters in there, you got to have a cooler pool. So this allows also for swim lessons for the younger, for the preschool and the parent and me classes. That's ideal. That's a complaint we normally get every year with lessons. Also, the other big benefit, it benefits the competitive community as well, because if we built this, we would not be at the high school pools anymore. So it frees up all that time for the high schools and also for the swim clubs and water polo clubs to have more time to program and expand. So this is what it would look like for us if we had this pool, what we would add. So it'd be extended lap swim hours. So I mentioned those hours before that were what we have now. This would allow us to essentially offer lap swim most of the day and the evening. Swim lessons we'd be able to offer year round. We'd be able to offer open and rec swim, and then the only adult program we run now is lap swim, but we'd be able to offer a master swim program and an adult water polo league like we offer at other adult leagues throughout the city for other sports. Junior guard prep, there's a little talk about that earlier. There's a big demand for that in this town, and right now, if you aren't able to utilize one of the HOA programs in town, you go to Costa Mesa. That's what I did with my daughter when she was in junior guards, to prep for the program for a couple months to learn how to get that time in. Club team rentals, we'd be able to accommodate club team rentals as well, and swim teams, we'd be able to fit that in as well. The therapy pool, I mentioned, preschool and parent and me classes, adult exercise, water aerobics, injury rehab, to name a few of the programs we could have in there. And then the splash pad, that's just fun. That's fun for families and kids waiting for their lesson, or if they're not in a lesson, to go ahead and cool off while they're waiting. So this is visually, I wanted to show this up across the top. This is the school year weekdays and the summer weekdays, and then the weekend year round. So currently what you see circled on the red circles, that's what we offer now, what we're able to offer. And if we had our own pool, we would add all those additional things we could add in. So it just shows you the amount we could add in if we had our own community pool. And again, those times that are in red would revert back to the high schools. So that would be open for the community as well, and the schools to go ahead and program those, really expanding the opportunity for the community. At this time, I'm going to have our traffic engineer, Tony Petros, come up and talk about traffic constraints.
Thank you, Sean. Mayor O'Neill, fellow council members, I'm Tony Petros with LSA Associates. We were hired by the city to take a look at traffic issues around this site. The subject of our analysis really is an initial opportunities and constraints review of the site, and to see if there is in fact an opportunity to site a community pool at this location. What you see before you is a graphic that shows what are the constraints that affecting mobility. And they are the project's demand for U-turns both northbound at Cliff and southbound at Dover and Coast Highway. Currently, you can make a U-turn at Cliff. The U-turn at Dover and Coast Highway is prohibited. There are other factors that affect mobility here, such as the merge and the weave coming out of the westbound right turn lane at PCH up to Dover, and those folks that would want to merge to the right to enter the site. This also happens to be one of the most popular cycling routes in the city, whether it is folks traveling on West Coast Highway or those coming around and wanting to go around Back Bay. This is the path. And so we have constraints at the driveway today where folks are actually on the sidewalk. They're permitted to be on the sidewalk as they move north and south along here. This is also a place where we've got the path under Coast Highway that allows for walking and cycling to occur without having to get in the intersection, and a very popular crossing of Coast Highway at Dover. All to say, there are a lot of issues at this location. Now, normally when we look at a land development project, we look at the project and we try and get the setting to fit the project. We offer mitigation. We look at improvements that can be made. Well, I can applaud the city of Newport Beach because truly this area is at its optimal geometrics. There are some things that can occur here, and we're working with staff on what those small things could be, like permitting the southbound U-turn here. But really what we've done is work with staff through the programming that Sean spoke about to say what can fit here. Let me also say this. We looked at all sorts of alternatives, like adding new access to Coast Highway, like adding or moving or modifying access along Dover. Let me be very, very clear. By virtue of the physical constraints, the regulatory constraints, and environmental issues, there is no other access alternative to this site. It just simply can't happen. So we are constrained by the location where it's at. Having said that, though, there are opportunities to look around this to make it possible to have a community pool. And by virtue of the programming that staff has shared with us, and applying a very conservative estimate of the number of people in each car that would arrive, only 1.5 persons. Now, you know, if you're going to go to a community event, you're bringing your children, you might bring your significant other, somebody else. There's probably 2 or 3 people in a car. We only looked at 1.5. And we can still say that the traffic generated on this site, by virtue of the programming that staff is looking at, can accommodate the use and not create significant impacts to mobility here. This would have to be borne out, though, by the typical entitlement process, CEQA, as well as your traffic phasing ordinance requirements here, which will all disclose, that it will percolate up and disclose the effects and allow staff to actually make educated decisions about what the proper offsets are here. But I'm here to tell you that in our professional opinion, this is a site, as programmed by staff, that can accommodate the use and not create any undue problems for mobility. and I'm available for questions as well.
Thank you, Tony. So now we will talk cost and schedule. So when we're looking at this conceptual plan, we've come up with an estimated construction cost. First, that top line, design, the environmental documents, all the permitting. We're looking at about 13% of the construction cost. A little bit higher than we normally see, but this is a constrained site. We're going to be working in replacing a seawall, which is a whole permit regime on its own. You know, there's probably coastal issues that we're going to work through, so that seems reasonable. The cost of the pool, therapy pool, splash pad, and building, and all the site development is about $33 million. That number we're pretty good with because RJM has done several pools recently, and so their numbers are good and fresh. So we're fairly confident on that. But we're not bidding this out until 2026, so we wanted to escalate that 5% for each year. That's an additional $3 million just in the construction inflation that we're seeing. Beyond that, we have contingency for construction and a construction management firm to come on and monitor construction, giving us a grand total of $47 million for the whole construction project. We also have operation and maintenance costs. So what you're seeing here is a chart that shows what we're currently spending and getting with our Newport Mesa agreement and what we anticipate the aquatic complex to cost. So currently you're looking at about $360,000 of operating expenses, and that is staffing, that's janitorial. At least for our complex, it will be janitorial. It will be all the electricity, the water, the heating of the pool, all the pool chemicals, and that would come out to about $1.5 million per year. Annualized facility maintenance. This is the amount of money that we would have to set aside for capital level maintenance on the facility. Currently, we don't do anything with the Newport Mesa maintenance. They take care of it. At our own facility, we'd have to put aside about $1.4 million a year. Now, this is a lumpy sum, so the first couple of years you wouldn't need, this money because the pool is new, but eventually you're going to have to replace the pool pumps. You're going to have to replace the pool decks. You'll have to refinish the pool. All the HVAC will be replaced through the lifetime of it. So lifetime, you're looking at about $1.4 million per year over the life of the pool. Got some money that comes in to the recreation, about $121,000 for program and rental revenues currently, about 3 times that much projected in the new aquatic center. So that gives us a total annual expense, at least on the new one, of $2.5 million per year. The schedule. So if we wanted to move forward quickly on this, we could begin our entitlements, traffic studies, our environmental stuff right now. We'd put out an RFP, start those, at least those initial preliminary processes to get going. That would include some public outreach. Want to see what the public thinks about the programming, make sure that we're not missing anything, how they're going to interact with the development. And then we'd come back in January to your budget planning session with some better idea of how much our design costs are going to be, maybe get our construction costs a little more dialed in based on what we're seeing in the entitlement and CEQA and geotechnical processes. And that all leads to getting the final design and getting this thing out to bid and awarded in fall of 2026, with construction in 2026, about 18 months of construction for a grand opening in spring of 2028. The ad hoc recommendations, you can see here, plan and construct an aquatic facility. Begin the entitlement process with the general plan amendment, EIR, all those initial studies I was discussing earlier. Do an RFP for proposals of the cost of construction documents, get those done. And to discuss opportunities, come back in January at that planning and budgeting session to discuss public-private partnerships and community participation for construction costs. Similar to what we did for the library lecture hall, similar to what we did for junior guards. So with that, whole team is here to answer any questions you guys might have.
All right. Anyone from ad hoc want to go ahead and speak first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
I just want to start by thanking the mayor and my fellow council members. We talked about this at our discussion at our strategic planning meeting back in January, and it's pretty cool to see the video and everything that's kind of come to life. So this is the first of a lot of steps. I've been in Newport Beach for 20 years now, and I've been cycling and running and participating in the community like many of you, and swimming in the ocean and the local pools. I do the swim classes or the swim adult swim over at Marion Bergerson Center, and I know how compacted that is. And when there's activities going on, we have like 4 or 5 lanes, and I'm swimming with 3 or 4 people at times. But just kudos to staff for all the time you put into this, and especially our residents. Laird Hayes, Brad Schumacher, and a few others that have been influential in helping me throughout this process, understanding what this would look like, and certainly our staff for putting a lot of this together. There's no doubt this is a lot of money. We're talking about around $40 million potentially, but I happen to believe this is Newport Beach, and where there's a will, there's a way. We have world-class athletes. Obviously, Kaylee's here tonight. She's no stranger to water. I think about individuals like Aaron Pearsall, who had to wake up every morning and go to Costa Mesa or Irvine to find a place to swim. So there's no doubt we can do better serving the residents here in Newport Beach when it comes to a community pool and aspect. I think around half the cities in Orange County have a pool. It's quite remarkable that Newport Beach does not. When you talk about a public-private partnership, like we talked about with the lecture hall, we talked about with the junior guards building, I'm fairly confident we can go raise half of this from the community. Somebody's going to want their name on this building, hopefully. Maybe someone here tonight, I don't know. But I think there's an opportunity to go out in the public and have a discussion about what that looks like in the not-too-distant future, for sure. We talk about compaction issues with other pools. I'm tired of talking to parents in East Bluff when the kids have nowhere to play water polo. I think we can do better. Talked about the aquatic legends that have come before us here in the city of Newport Beach. I love the different uses. I mean, all of us remember Evelyn Hart and all that she's done in the community, and she talked about a therapy pool at length always. It'd be really cool. You got a 50-meter pool. You can do water polo on one side. You can do adult swim on the other side. The splash pad. I mean, the therapy pool, swim lessons. I mean, right now, if you're not a member of a club, where do you take swim lessons? Someone's backyard. I love the staircase idea from upper to lower castaways. We really didn't talk about that, but item 14 on the screen shows you what it could look like connecting upper and lower castaways. So you could be on a run. It's such a great opportunity. Bill Lobdell has a great podcast in the city called Newport in the Rearview Mirror. There's an episode that talks about lower castaways, and it's such a shame, like we talk about, this is the birthplace of Newport Beach, and it's literally a dirt parking lot. It's one of the most beautiful lots that the city has, and it's a shame that it's not more. But he talks about the historical component. Right now, that the sign that talks about the landing is across the street on, where all the signs are right now for campaigns, but there's literally a plaque right there that talks about that. That should be on this site. There should be a historical component here. I love the aquatic center theme because it's human-powered launch vessels, paddleboards, stand-up paddleboards, kayaks, everything else. I think that's really cool. And then for the FFP purposes, so we talk about funding for this going forward. I mean, how much do we have set aside right now for like the Balboa Yacht Basin?
So we don't have the total.
Theory.
In theory, yeah, we're looking at probably 10 to 15 million in FFP total.
Okay.
So that's supposed to kind of we have to prioritize where we're going to spend all that money.
Sure. And if there was a private relationship where someone could come in and take that on, and the city might not have to spend 10 or 15 million that we were maybe potentially planning on spending down the road.
Correct.
And a West Newport Community Center, we have that on the FFP. Not funded, but in theory.
Yeah, we have to set aside money for the replacement of that structure too.
Sure. Okay. So I think once we get into a January strategic meeting, I think we could put our heads together and figure out where can we, come up with some ideas, whether, public-private partnership and then other projects we have in the city to find the use for this. So, yeah, those are my comments, but thank you to everyone who's put the time and energy into this.
Great, thanks. I should also note real quickly, Kaylee, we did not bring you in here to coordinate with the study session, I promise. All right, Councilmember Blum.
I had nothing to do with it.
I did, and I need to say that. All right, Councilmember Blum.
Yeah, nobody thought that, by the way, Mayor.
Yeah.
Nobody was thinking that. Great to see you, Kaylee. Wow. Aquatics-themed evening. I like it. Okay, real quickly, I think it's important to discuss kind of how these things come to be and why we're even discussing this. Councilmember Stapleton was amazing at selling this idea and what it is, and I concur with him. We've sat in the committee together. We've wandered through these plans. You know, the design is gorgeous. All of it's amazing. The question always comes down to is why and for what reason? And a lot of times that's a really difficult question when you start talking about spending people's money. And I'm no stranger up here, as many of you might nod and note, to spending some of our money out there on projects. But I do believe that the underlying principle for city government is to build an infrastructure that we're all proud about. It's to build something that benefits a great swath of our community and brings something back into the city that we're proud of. You know, and when we think about pools, sometimes in Newport, we laugh a little bit because we do have the ocean. But for anybody that is not from here originally and didn't grow up playing in the waves of the Pacific, you will realize that that is a frightening and daunting feat for a lot of people that just want to go out for a swim and enjoy it. Especially, I happen to have a 1.5-year-old right now. That's not where I'm training her to swim currently. It seems a little more daunting. She went under a couple times and my wife got mad. So at the end of the day, this is something that we look at a place like we are, and these amenities are what we strive to do. Can we afford them? We'll have some disagreements up here, I'm sure, about how, when, and why to make something like this happen. But does this add to a better community in general? It does. When we look at Newport Beach and we look at what the job is for all of us up here, it's an idea to build a better city than we found. And the truth of a project like this is it puts forth a better city than we found. And something where we can both get youth sports in here, where we can start training people to learn how to swim, and we can have an area in which young people can go and play. I mean, that was really, we drew the line during this committee and said, look, all three of these are important. We have to figure out a way to make all three of them happen. That's the largest branch we can put out for the largest group of people within the city. And yeah, the cost is going to be high, but I think as a lot of us have learned over the last 10 years, the costs are only going to get higher. And we're going to keep fighting for what is in the best nature of this community. And so I fully concur with Councilmember Stapleton on this dream and vision. I would have liked to put the pier project first, but that is excessively more expensive than what he's offering right now. So let's get some of these things taken care of and move forward in a really wonderful way. So thank you, Councilmember Stapleton, for putting forward, and Councilmember Grant for being part of this group.
All right, Councilmember Grant.
Thank you. This is definitely a very exciting project, and it is certainly inspiring to be a part of the committee that took the initial look at this. We're obviously at a very early stage, and there's going to be plenty of time for council input, staff input, and especially for community input, because at the end of the day, this is meant for the community, and it should be something that responds to the needs and the desires and the commitment that the community wants to make. Just a few thoughts. Again, very exciting project. One of the things that was very much discussed in our committee meetings with staff and with our consultants was the traffic, and as was presented by our consultant and our staff, the traffic is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle that we do need to resolve very well, and we're very fortunate to have former council member Tony Petros here with us explaining it, and he was very careful in all of our meetings to make sure that we did adequately address traffic, especially with our Rec Director Sean Levin to make sure that what our needs are fit with what the use could be. And I think that that is an ongoing conversation. We do need to fine tune that. And it's something that we need to be very purposeful in and mindful of so that the wonderful aspects of bringing a pool to our community aren't blurred by any detriment that traffic considerations might have. And Tony has been very successful in bringing confidence to that factor. So I look forward to working with him more on that. And then, of course, as my colleagues, the two council members that I work with on this committee mentioned, the cost. It's a lot. I also believe in investing in infrastructure. I've been a member of a lot of public-private partnerships that have gone on in the city in the last 20 years. And every single time we've gone into one of these things, we've said, yikes, sticker shock. But the community has stepped up. We did an animal shelter. We did a junior guard building. We're completing a library lecture hall. I was very much in favor and involved in, a large part in some of those projects. And so I do think that with the right coaching to the community about the need and the purposefulness of this project, that we can get a buy-in from the community that can offset and really show the commitment, from the community. I think it's important to get that started right away because it's a huge lift. $20 million is a lot of money for the community. But I do know that we have already a lot of interest, even some pledges. So, here we go. Game on. I do think that we need to spend some time with value engineering. And, this is just very preliminary. We talked a little bit about value engineering in our committee meetings, but there's certainly ways that we can reimagine what we've already looked at to maybe make it not only cost efficient in construction, but the ongoing costs, the $2+ million a year. Maybe we can value engineer in some ways to help bring those costs down. I think it's really important for us to put that as a priority. The restricting of the programming, Sean has done a stellar job in really taking a global look at what our community needs. It's been used, the other pools in our community have been used in so many ways, and to bring all of those factors together and then really merge it and weave a schedule that is workable for the community and for the site was much to Sean's credit, and he worked directly with the traffic. And my concern there would be maybe working with legal as well to make sure that we properly document the needs and the restrictions on this site so that we understand as a community what we can and can't do there. We're building this for a purpose of a community pool, and it's not going to end up being like an entertainment venue or something like that. It really needs to be purposeful so that we don't overtax the site and the community that it sits in, the smaller community that it sits in. So I think it's important to not only value engineer, but also maybe we want to call that, programming engineer this properly, right? I mentioned the public-private partnership. I think, again, that's a really important piece of this that has to be initiated in the very, very start so that we have plenty of time to accomplish that. And I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Stapleton and Councilmember, former Mayor Blum for really doing so much work to make this a reality. It's been a pleasure to work on it with you.
Councilmember Weigand.
Yes, as somebody that didn't get to participate in ad hoc, I do want to appreciate the time spent by those council members who were in that and had come up with this very nice plan. So this is the first I've seen all of it. I've kind of heard some rumblings from some of you out there about it, but to me, $47 million is a pretty high price tag. But if there is that split 50-50 like we did with the library lecture hall, I find that to be a very good and credible way to overcome those financial challenges. So I wrote down a lot of notes up here because I didn't get to see this up till now. So I had a question on the trail. Is the trail built into that price tag? I'm seeing some head noddings.
The one up the stairs up
to the
top
Castaways.
Yeah, that's built
Upper
into that
Castaways.
price tag. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because if we ever had a challenge in parking, we could attract people to park in our other parking lot. That could work its way down, and you could theoretically, in parts of that, get golf carts to shuttle people back and forth to make that easier. Not obviously down the hill part, but at least on the flat parts on the upper hills. Should there be a a big event, parking demand. I liked that there's event space. I do think, do you think we could come up with some other creative strategies to perhaps bring up that dollar amount that we could annually bring in to offset some of the costs? Like, could there be more events? Could we envision, since if it's on a second floor, we're going to see some views. So could we have winter formals and proms? Not to say that I'm just throwing out, spitballing, things, but could you have a concession stand? Could you have, things that could bring in some revenue that could help, offset? Because looking at this, our school district gives us a pretty darn good deal, $241,000 to $2.5 million annually. That's a significant. I get it. We'll have a lot more access, a lot more time for this space, but it's pretty cool to see we've got a good partnership with our school district that gives us a pretty good return on our investment and lets the public engage in those things. So if there's a way to figure out how to bring in some additional revenue, I think that could be. And then also, I think I missed it, but 13, is that the boat storage? So would that be generating some revenue too, or is that what you're including in the revenue?
Yeah, we didn't include that in the revenue yet.
Okay.
Because that's something, but that's what we envision. We work with the groups that are leasing down there now and probably do a different sort of an arrangement where they would rent space from us there. So that would be revenue, but that's not contemplated in the revenue number. That's in the plan.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's probably things in the works that we can come back to the public and say, hey, we think we can, and I get it. We're just throwing estimates out there as far as what that would cost. The pool size, was that kind of complicated or contemplated in the ad hoc, like 50 versus 100 meter versus more lanes, size-wise? I get it that we're constrained, but was there any other further discussion on that size? Is that adequate?
Yes. We did have a lot of discussion on that. You want to pull that one slide? We can just show it real quick. So there was talk between a 35, we start here, a 35 and a 50. Because a 35, you can accommodate water polo, but I'll show you the difference in what that means going from a 50 to a 35. So this is 50. That's a typical, with our program plan that you saw earlier, you could have these 3 activities going on at the same time. And if you go down to 35, you really go down to 2 activities, so it cuts down the use. And then if we click to the next slide, I want to show this one. So this is really where the rub is from my perspective for swim lessons, the big difference. With the 50-meter pool, if you look at that red area on the kind of the down below, that area, that's 3.6 feet. So you can use that whole, it's about 50 feet, that 5 shallow lanes. So you can do lessons in that whole area standing for instructors. And that's about 40 kids, learning how to swim at one time in a half-hour session. If you go to 35, you have to dive quickly to get the depth for water polo. So you go down to about 15 feet, and you can accommodate about 12 people in a swim lesson at one time. So those are the main differences, and you lose a buffer between activities as well. So it's less activities at one time and a lot less space to do lessons.
I think I was looking more even bigger though, like 75. Like, was that ever contemplated? Like, were size?
The site won't even accommodate it.
Okay. I just want to know, like, was 50 kind of our max? Because these 2 activities, and I get the aquatic therapy component too, but I want to make sure that we're building this. I want to make sure we're accommodating the demand and the need.
For a community pool, 50 is big and perfect. Okay. It's great for what we need.
And then to the splash pad side of things, it sounds like a fun thing, but is it necessary for what we want it to be? And I want to make sure, is that an expense that's unnecessary? Is that an expense that kind of gives younger kids, while their brother and sister are out doing the other sports, they can give them some activity to do? I'm just, kind of throwing things out there based on just learning about these. I want to make sure that we're spending our money appropriately on things, but that's more of an arbitrary thing that I'm just throwing out. I did like the fire pits up there in that one that gets cold on the deck. If you spend a lot of time on the deck as a parent, it gets cold out there, and the site is going to be windy, it's going to be cold. So having that or some type of built-in heater is kind of a nice thing. So I did appreciate that. So a lot of stuff to like here. And I think it's great. And Noah did say it actually perfectly, that it makes this city a good and that's what we're here to do, is make it a better place than we left it. So I think we can get here. We had challenges with the lecture hall, but we eventually got there, and we found the community to step in. I think this is a similar situation. It's a different community, and they're asking for it. They want it. These people are all out here looking probably just to talk and have me shut up. So I think I think this is a great place. Just to the designer though, on the first video, there will be no sailboats back there. There's a bridge that prevents them, unless we can get Caltrans to build a drawbridge. I don't see that anytime soon. So thanks.
Councilmember Kleiman.
Thank you. So I know there's been a number of things that have been contemplated on this site in the past and not moved forward. I want to give some kudos to Mayor Pro Tem Stapleton for spearheading this. I think it's going to be a fantastic, much needed investment for the community. And also want to thank the ad hoc committee and staff for your time on this. I look forward to continue conversations about it.
All right. I noticed you all waited until I was 60 days off of council before putting a $47 million project together. It's fair. Councilmember Avery.
This is really good for, I'm not going to be messing with my district much longer, but for District 2 in Newport Beach, and obviously for West Cliff and all the folks on Kings Road and all the folks over in Bay Shores. It's incredible. So it's akin to what we've been looking for some time, a community center in West Newport. So I think it's great. The price is daunting. Our current lecture hall that we're working on, I think, are still a little challenged in terms of raising funds to complete that in our partnership. But, you know, I just see, as I've said before, this town is a juggernaut. And we all know, just by our experience walking around, all the reinvestment in the housing stock, houses coming down and going up, and, you know, spectacular investments into our community. And that's just going to keep going. And of course, what that's doing is generating more property tax, more transit occupancy tax, more sales tax. And as long as we don't mess it up, I just think this is going to be very doable as time goes on. But I do think, obviously, the value engineering part of it is important to just decide, make sure everything, that we're not doing things that aren't absolutely necessary. And the site plan, to me, is just really nice. It's much more than I thought it was going to be. It's my first look at it. So the approximation of the pool to the harbor, the back bay, is incredible. It's going to be quite something. So, and I think the design is totally in line with the expectations of our community for something like this. So I do think people will contribute, but I think we should not underestimate that challenge to raise $20 million. But every now and then you get a meteorite comes through, like the Randalls, who gave money for a very nice preserve in this town. And hopefully there's someone else out there that can do that. And also people have made lead gifts to many other projects, including the lecture hall. So yeah, I'm real bullish, obviously, on Newport, and I just think this adds to, not only is it adding to it, but it's something that we've really needed for a long time. And I remember when I first got on council, there was continuous discussion on what to do with the property. And it was being used primarily as a storage area and a laydown area for marine projects in the harbor, which is important. But there are some other places where we'll be able to launch docks and get major equipment out onto the harbor. So one of them I'm thinking about is the wharf right by the Cannery Restaurant, which has done a lot of amazingly big things with cranes, getting stuff on the water and barged to wherever it needs to go in the harbor. So it's a spectacular project and worthy of the city, and I think of all the residents. So I'm totally behind it. Thank you.
Great. Before we go into public comment, we actually had a alternative recommendation from one of our harbor commissioners, Rudy. Rudy's asked for 3 speakers at 5 minutes, and then so if you would like to present your vision, and then we'll go into public comment from there.
Thank you, Mayor O'Neill, members of the council. My name is Don Yon. I'm a lifelong resident of Newport Beach and a member of the Harbor Commission for 6 years now. In review of this pool concept, I think it is amazing. I give kudos to the ad hoc committee. You guys have really thought through a fantastic plan. Looks like a very big community need, and I'm very impressed with all the thought and the effort that's gone into that. So I'm here to just say thank you for what you've done thus far. And there's a lot of swimmers in this room, I've noticed. So a need for a pool seems to be very well thought through. My point today is to just give a little context as to what we've been tasked with as a harbor commission. The harbor commissioners actually, our job is actually to advise the city council on all matters related to the harbor, the operation, maintenance, and so on, but also to make recommendations on land use relating to any harbor-related facility. Land use recommendations made to the city council as well as the planning commission. So we were tasked as a harbor commission, and as I heard earlier today, this has been a fallow piece of dirt sitting here for decades, going back and forth with no community vision. I'm very excited there's vision tonight, and this is very exciting news to see what's going on here. I wanted to give context to what the Harbor Commission was tasked with, just so the public has a little bit of perspective on what we had thought through in the past, and some of the stops and starts along the way, probably over 10 years now, since the Irvine Company deeded the site to the city. So, but I just thought we'd be remiss at not sharing some of that. So what the Harbor Commission wanted to do is take in consideration the general plan for the site. That general plan encourages continued coastal dependent and coastal related uses, maintains marine theme and character, encourages mutually supportive businesses, encourages visitor serving recreational uses, and encourages physical and visual access to the bay. Those are the tenets of which the ad hoc committee for the Harbor Commission put into consideration. They had developed 3 items, and by the way, I'm not on that ad hoc committee, but members of my colleagues are, that'll go into a little more detail. They have developed certain plans that they feel would be relating to those land use objectives. Each one of those, in doing so, there's 2 concepts that came out probably the most. One is called a Marine Exhibit Park, and another is a Marine Institute Aquarium. Both of these sites have merit. The idea behind them all, however, was to have a theme that was to be educational, research-oriented, conservation-minded, low intensity, and not a large draw. And obviously, as we know, the site has access issues, and we know that we can't have a very large-scale project on this 4-acre site. But in importance is in collaboration with the other eco-related displays we have with the Muth Interpretive Center and the Back Bay Center. We think ultimately this would be the pride of Newport, as we've all heard today. What a prime location to have all of these aspects that would be embracing our community. We also have the community, the ad hoc has put these ideas behind other community leaders, and they have looked at it with great enthusiasm and also potential financial support and funding, both in the construction of the project and the ongoing operation of that. And you'll hear just in a few minutes after I'm done a little more detail about those projects. The bottom line, we want to see a project that appeals to the broadest base of our community and both residents and visitors alike, and want to create what we'd say a great source of community pride. And on that note, I'm going to hand over the podium here to talk a little bit about the Marine Institute concept, and I'll ask my colleague, Rudy.
Thank you, Don. Mayor O'Neill and council members, my name is Rudy Sverchek, a harbor commissioner. So I've been working on this concept for about 1.5 years and thought we'd share it with you today. So the idea is to create an aquarium. The site has aquarium, a amphitheater, an area to launch kayaks and provide tours, a sculpture area at the beginning that would be interesting, and touch ponds for the kids. We've also included a classroom, a sea life display area, and also, let me move through some of the details. So this is some of the concepts. At the entry, it could be whale sculptures, interesting ideas, a little learning for the kids, touch pools for shallow marine access experience for the kids. Sea life displays that have all the local crabs and lobsters and all the different fish that live and enjoy the ocean and the harbor here. The live exhibits, which would be aquariums that have live fish. Pretty exciting for a local aquarium. Kayak tours that would give you access to the upper Newport Bay and eco tours. An amphitheater that could serve as a lecture opportunity venue or entertainment. Looking to the east, you see Fashion Island City Lights, which is really a spectacular view. The architect EHDD, they are the ones that designed the original footprint and site plan for Lower Castaways. Another addition could be the art. This happens to be a sculpture in New York City. You can see how it goes back to the original mariners and some of their challenges. The picture on the left shows one mariner trying to save another, and when the tide goes down, you can see more of them and less of them. It's pretty cool. Another idea for access is to use Cliff Drive and the three-way stoplight that will avoid the right-in, right-out. Sure, it's more expensive, but it would be a great access point. We had a cost estimate done by Rudolph and Slater. They have built many aquariums, and so they gave two different prices depending on the size of the aquarium. One is $60 million, the other is estimated at $80 million. There's more detail, but this is the cover page. I think there's a collaborative effort that we could pull together with this aquarium idea. We could take the Peter and Mary Mirth Interpretive Center, the Back Bay Science Center, and the William Kirchhoff Marine Laboratory. The three lower sites could provide there could be an electric boat tour that goes to all the sites. It could be part of a whole educational program. They're all a little different and represent a little different part of the ocean and marine life. So that, would you mind passing out the handout? Or you got the handout? So in addition, I laid out a few other potential sites that the swimming pool could be placed on. So if you see on the first page, this is just a Google graphic. I didn't have the resources, the budget, so I had to beg a little, borrow a little, and put a little bit of my own money out. So excuse the graphics. But anyhow, so the first location potential is the Newport Aquatic Center. It's a very large site. There's a lot of parking. The infrastructure is already in. The building for all the rowing facilities, the last time, I don't know if it's changed, but there used to be an old gym there that needed to be rehabbed. So there's some facilities there. I put in 3 pools. You can see the top of the page is the location. The 3 other, the Cronin MR pool, that's basically Cronin MR High pool to scale, the One Ford Road community pool to scale, and the YMCA pool to scale. Just one more minute if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The Sunset Ridge Park, infrastructure's in, the bridge is in, $16 million, I guess, on the bridge, a great parking lot. I believe, as you can see in the picture, I have 3 pools there. I think there's plenty of room to put additional pools, and the infrastructure is already in. So that's another choice. The next opportunity is Newport Dunes. There are 2 large sites. It's county, but I think there's probably a deal to be made there. In this summary, I've showed 2 large pools from Corona Del Mar High that fit with plenty of parking. So I think it's a great site. The next page just kind of shows where that is. This is a very special site, Lower Castaways, and I think there's other places for a pool. So that's for your consideration. I'll turn it over to Don Jacobs.
Okay.
Mayor O'Neill and council members, my name is Don Jacobs. I'm an architect. 309 Poppy, been there for 37 years, and love the city. And I have a less ambitious proposal to share with you. Obviously, the site is very precious, and I'm going to explain it by starting, say, you wanted to visit the site and you had your kids or grandkids with you. You drive into the drop-off, drop them at the Whalebone Plaza where the whale skeleton would be, where you then you park the car. You'll then go into the Welcome Center and gift shop to orient yourself to whatever items you're going to be looking at. And you start, which I'll show you a short video of the 360 underwater experience, which is incredible. You've heard about the Sphere in Las Vegas. This is kind of a mini version of it. So let's say the family all goes in to see the experience, and after that they go out and there's the pool, the touch pools. All of this is education. And of course the little kids are going to want to stay at the pools, but we're going to get them into the exhibit building, which is the large building at the north end. And of course after that you're going to need some refreshments, so there's a cafe where you can sit outside, look at the bay, perhaps hear a lecture in the amphitheater. And you'll see those dots. Those are fish on a stick. There'll be all the fish that are abundant in our sea and bay with explanations about them. The little kids would want to see that. The older kids want to go down to the kayak building at the south end and schedule either a kayak tour in that afternoon or the next time they come. We all gather together, go back through the gift shop, hopefully pick up some souvenirs and a couple of books on marine life to further educate the kids, and you've had a great day on the bay. So with that, this is the 360 underwater experience, immersive dome. And you really feel like you're underwater. That's the man who put this together is an underwater photographer. You can visit any ocean in the world in this theater. An amazing, again, educational item. And it can be used for more than just underwater. It can be used for showing movies, educational movies, entertainment movies. All kinds of events can be shown in the 360 thing. The sea life displays, as Rudy mentioned, and the interpretation center, again, an educational item. The touch pools are always a big draw, and I think a must, being right on the water. The kayak, we see these as tours. being led by docents on the back bay. This is the inspiration for the fish on a stick. These are at Fashion Island. You've probably seen them. And here the red dots show where they would be, and they would be kind of like this. And you can see the Garibaldi out the orange on the hillside out there. So it'd be a smaller version of those. Again, education, actually putting it right in the face of everyone so they know what we have underwater. And with that, I thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. We are now going to move in. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Councilmember Blum. Okay. We're now going to move into regular public comment. How many people are planning on speaking? Okay. Great. If you could come on forward and if you could form a line coming down the center so that I have a sense of how many folks we have coming up. You can use either microphone and we'll go ahead and go forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor, council members, Mayor Pro Tem Stapleton. Great job on this. Very exciting. My name is Dennis Bress, resident of Balboa Island, and I'm very familiar with the site. Lower Castaways is where my dad and myself and my son, 3 generations, have coffee every Friday. And we go to McDonald's, get the senior coffee, 2 for, I think it's $1.25. And then we go down Coast Highway and make the left there on Dover. And yeah, that spot, Tony, on the right-hand side, when you make that left and you have to get over to the right, it's a little tenuous to do it for sure, but it's doable. That said, what's so great about that area is this is a legacy project for this particular piece of property within Newport. And the main driver for this is more pool inventory in our city. I too swim at CDM. And yeah, it can get burdensome sometime with multiple people in the lanes. But as we know with Kylie, that we have a lot of use within our 2 particular pools for water polo and swimming and everything else that's going on in town. The ability to have an Evelyn Hart therapy pool, that's just rings to me like that's amazing, because that Oasis Center that we have for our older community is amazing in itself, but to have a pool along with a therapy pool for what that could provide for our seniors, warm water, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then Noah, you could take the swim lessons over there too for the young one.
Oh,
no, for yourself.
Thought it was me.
Yeah, just you. But the main thing is for the community pool for sure. As far as what Robin had said, to get the buy-in of the public sooner than later, we were there when I think the people that were contracted to do the job were there taking pictures, so we kind of talked a little bit about what was going on there. I couldn't wait to see the renderings, what we saw. But I think sooner than later to get that video up on the city's website so people can see what we're talking about. Wow, that was amazing to see what we're going to build there, hopefully. And then the last part is to be able to do the funding based on 47 million divided by 2 with the buy-in, 23.5, right, over 10 years, 2.3 million. I think the math works out. So great project, and I support it 100%. Thanks for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Manzar Nabi. I live in Crystal Cove subdivision. Every morning I have to wake up with the horrible, terrible sound of gas-operated blowers.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Are you here to talk about the pool?
No, I'm here to talk about, about the, my concern about the noise.
Got it. We're going to have an opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items after this item.
Oh, after this, I am
Yes,
so
ma'am.
sorry.
Oh, no. Thank you very much. I'll make sure to call you up. All right. Next speaker, please.
Mayor O'Neill, members of the council, my name is Keith Dawson. I've been a resident of Corona Del Mar since 1971. I think it's fair to say you're going to pull me out of this area feet first. One thing that struck me initially about our area is all the opportunities for education. We've got the amazing Oasis Center over in Corona Del Mar with offering programs to young and old. I was walking up here this evening, walked past the new structure that's the lecture hall. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for education connected with the library. Those two just local opportunities benefit the community immeasurably. When I think about an aquarium on the spot that's being considered versus a pool, I think of a pool as benefiting the swimmers. And I have no problem with swimmers, but it's not the community, it's the swimmers. The aquarium, on the other hand, would be an amazing asset for this community. I heard the word education many times during the presentation regarding the aquarium. I got to say, I think that's a better use for this property because it benefits the community rather than just, and again, no problem with swimmers, but it's a limited group, and we are a big community, and I think we all should be benefiting from this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Philip Rowe. I'm a recent transplant to Newport Beach. 55 years ago, I moved here. And I would tell you that I look at Newport Beach, a great community. It's been wonderful, and it's great to see all the wonderful things you guys do in your roles. But this is an ocean community to me. And something that we do of this magnitude and this kind of a cost really should try to focus on what we are, which is an ocean community. And you've got a great opportunity to educate children and adults on our ocean that surrounds us and that we live with. Swimming pool, I go with Keith. I have no problem with swimmers, even though I don't swim very well. But I would say that you will make more of a statement for Newport Beach and for a coastal environment by having an aquarium and all that that brings with it. I know Rudy, and I've known him for a long time, and he's shown me some of the things that he had in mind. And I just like the project because there are swimming pools now. We have operated with the swimming needs for a long time, and it looks like it could be done, but we don't have an aquarium. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Bill Kennedy, Corona Del Mar. Little less time than Keith, but 64 years in the town. I'm very familiar with that site. My best friend at the time and future best man at my wedding, his grandmother lived in that trailer park, and we visited her often. I like your plan. I think it's a great idea. I just happen to think it's in the wrong spot. The people that have come before me said it better than I can. We should have something there for the whole community, not just the swimmers. Once again, I love your plan, just in a different location. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Tim Rohn, and I would like to say the aquarium is a super idea. We have gone vacations up to Monterey Peninsula, I don't know how many times, and of course we stay at the aquarium, around the aquarium up there. And I think for our community, it would be a boon. And the swimmers, yeah, I'm all for the swimmers. I've surfed forever, so I'm very familiar with all that. But having an aquarium, the kids could really, really learn so many things. And my goddaughter is graduating from college now, and she's involved in marine biology. And she's had to go literally to Long Beach to learn so much of this. And she's learned so much at that aquarium. So anyway, I'd like to see the aquarium. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Greg Parker, longtime resident of Newport Beach. And in fact, when I was a little boy 65 years ago, my dad he'd rebuilt a World War II Jeep, and we used to ride up the hill the upper castaways and go up and down. And so it's every time I go down Dover, I think of that experience. I think your idea is great about the pool, the need, et cetera. The unfortunate thing is if it's mutually exclusive on this A-plus site, that all of us, I don't think anybody has any question about, the integrity of the site. There's multiple sites for the pool. I would recommend highly moving the pool to some other location, and instead doing the Marine Institute. I'm a grandfather of 8 grandkids, and the most important thing in my life for them is education. Knowledge is power. Let's empower our kids, all of them, and especially given the demographic of this city, where we're disproportionately a lot of mature individuals who have a lot of grandkids. Let's educate all of our grandkids. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hey, Council. My name is Peter Belden, longtime resident and local business owner. And just want to thank you guys for bringing this up. This is something our community desperately needs. I went to junior lifeguard program since 9, played water polo and swam at Newport Harbor, and that started my career at UCLA. So aquatics and pools here in Newport has been the foundation of my life. So thank you for bringing this up. Pool time is drastically needed. And to address the prior speakers, I grew up in Dover Shores. I was going off my BMX on little jumps over the castaways before they were homes. And I spent a lot of time around that site. In fact, in about 3rd grade, I even buried a time capsule there that might come up when we start digging. So if you find it, please let me know. So I think that site is absolutely perfect for it, for being central. I think it's, like you said, the founding site where Newport Beach was started. And this community needs a pool. You talk to anyone in aquatics, they absolutely need more pool time. And I could go on and on about this, but I'm going to speak to something specific. So I'm also a small business owner for Deep End Fitness. It's like a kind of side business that I have. And we rent the pool over at OCC because there's no pool time here in Newport, which is crazy to me. And it is a beautiful pool, but we spend about nearly $50,000 a year. I write checks to OCC. So that's why I wanted to bring up Councilman Wygan's point there that you had $360,000 of revenue set aside for this. And I think that number is drastically low. So I don't know how you got to those numbers, but I would say that you should do a lot of work in terms of trying to present this project into really working on the revenue that will be generated from it. And I think that number should be much higher, just based on the fact that my little business could pay for 1/7 of that. So anyways, thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing what you put in that capsule. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Council. My name is Joe Pelletier, local resident over by Hoag Hospital. I'm an example of a resident who pays a gym membership about $300 a month and drives from near Hoag to Irvine to swim laps. So, and I do that because I do not like swimming at CDM. It's too crowded. You hit a little kid who's not looking and then you're the bad guy. I'd rather just pay and go do it elsewhere. So, but my one issue is the word consolidation came up. And as beautiful as this pool is, and as how many residents are doing something similar to me, going to OCC pool, going to pool in Irvine, this pool will be packed. And I think consolidating everything into one pool does not make a lot of sense. People will turn around because it will be too crowded. I think if it's not enough now with people swimming at Newport Harbor when the pool's open and at Corona Del Mar when the pool's open, consolidating is not going to fix the problem. We need more access, not consolidated access. So that's one point. And that's something that I think should be brought up. Additionally, I've swam a lot at the Long Beach City Community Center. I have family that lives close by. And several times there, they consolidated, as this city is considering doing. I have had to leave that pool to go swim in Long Beach Harbor. They have an area in Long Beach Harbor. It's called Horny Corner. And they have it's a big area. We could do something similar to that for virtually no money, from the Finger Jetty on the East Jetty down to China Cove. No boats go in there. We could have a 250-meter thing for the cost of a lap line, a little staircase in and out, and have very cheap additional swimming that way, just as other cities have done similarly. So just adding a fourth, very cost-effective potential solution.
All right. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Mayor O'Neill and members of the City Council. My name is Robin Sinclair, and I'm a former member of the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Committee many years ago. I do want to share a quick story of our little granddaughter. When we were driving by one day, she looked at the property and she was convinced that it was a graveyard. And my husband and I had to convince her that that space was not a graveyard, that it was a place where they stored boats and other things. So I'm super excited at the thought of beautifying and renovating it to something that's so valuable in our community. As a longtime ocean and aquatics family, we fully support this pool. It's equitable for everybody. Not everybody can afford a private club. I am one of those seniors that swim at the YMCA in that deep, warm water, and I love that pool, and that's impacted. And it would be wonderful to have something that is available for everybody in all ages. So I just really thank you for the work that you have done. And on behalf of my family, we fully support this. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
And Mr. Mayor, please know that Ross Sinclair is her son.
I see.
Yeah, and you can ask Kaylee or Ross if this is an aquatic community. Newport Beach is an aquatic community, not just an ocean. John Yeager, I've been over 30-year residence here, and I've been swimming in the ocean here for over 60 years. Councilmember Bloom noted that one of the functions of the council is to provide municipal facilities. The other primary function is services and land use regulation. And a pool on that site checks all those boxes. No one's mentioned that that site is blighted. It's not, a construction staging site, really. The council has tried to do things to build up Mariners Mile, right? You've had ad hoc committees on Mariners Mile. That's a gateway to Mariners Mile. It deserves something that the city can be proud of. So I think there's only one question, just ask yourself and ask your constituents. What does the city need more, an aquarium or a swimming pool? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor O'Neill, esteemed City Council, my name is Kara Kirby, resident of the city, employed in the city, and a member of the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission. I thank you for those of you who are on the City Council. When I was appointed, I'm honored to serve on that commission, and I remember that when I had my introduction with Laura Detweiler, who was the Director of Recreation and Senior Services at the time. She was giving me this huge introduction, all these things in the city. I was learning so much. But I asked her, I said, what do you think the city needs in terms of recreation and senior services? And she was very quick to answer with two things: a pool and a community center on the west side. And I believe that that was mentioned as both being components of this proposal. I think it's a fabulous proposal. I understand that some people find other options more appealing, but I would also just like to point out that a pool is a great place for education. It doesn't need to be an aquarium to be educational. I think that sometimes we kind of miss some of the things that are behind the scene. We only see what people want us to see, but I work at Newport Harbor High School, and there are a lot of students at that school who don't know how to swim. And we fortunately have a teacher, Ross Sinclair, who's also a coach, who has developed a program that has helped students in our local communities who don't have access to junior guards, who haven't had that same access, to have the opportunity to learn to be water and ocean safe. And I think that a pool facility would be highly educational. It's not just for swimmers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Antonella Castro, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stapleton, Councilwoman Robin Grant, and former Mayor, Councilman Mr. Blum, who ran away when I was speaking. I'm coming with the perspective that the pool really is the best and most highest use for this facility. As Sean Levin pointed out, this reaches our youth, our families, our elderly communities. It is not just for swimmers. My husband is a swimmer and water polo player, but I am a land mammal from the desert. But my children, who are growing up here in this ocean community, as everyone keeps saying, the number one thing they had to do was learn to swim so they can be ocean safe. Our Newport Beach City program was so impacted, we had to teach them to swim by hiring, private coaches to swim in people's backyard pools. Now, not everybody can afford that, and I think the prior speaker made an excellent point. Not everybody learns to swim when they are 2 years old, 3 years old. Just the other day, these boys on my son's soccer team, they were afraid to go to a team bonding experience because it was at the Port Street pool and they had never swam and they don't know how to swim. So they have a little 1-inch splash area and we calmed them down. Secondly, we have an aging population who deserve to have classes, water aerobics, therapy. You can rehab. I'm sure we could find other uses, like Councilmember Wagon pointed out, for therapy pools. I don't believe our hospitals, our Hogue has that. There are a myriad of uses that this pool will have for a community. Regarding an aquarium, if you're really focused on that, potentially the dunes would have be a better option, as it would be less impactful on traffic over there than it would be here, because that's a place I could see being overrun with people visiting from out of town, making a huge impact on our traffic, on our safety. For residents here, I don't know that it's going to be a continuing use like a pool would be, so we have our residents who would be able to use it over and over again versus a one-time visit or maybe a couple-time visit a year. So I'm all for the project. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Mayor O'Neill and Councilman. I just want to let you know I'm Gary Hill, lifelong Newport Beach resident, and I'm a very active swimmer, and I really, really support this program. Thank you guys for all your hard work. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor O'Neill and especially Councilman Stapleton and the rest of you for supporting this. I have lived in Newport Beach since I was 4 in 1956. I learned to swim in the bay. I coached the swim team at Lido Island, and we put boards down so we could have flip turns back and forth in the bay. And we swam against Newport Shores and all the Bandericks and all those pools came from. And I've been a swimmer my whole life and swam harbor with Mark Desmond and then Kevin Potter and with the master's programs. Anyways, long story, can't swim at harbor anymore, so you go to CDM or mostly the ocean for me. But mostly, I just want to thank you so much. This is like a dream come true that we'd have this pool for our community, for all the children, and especially I represent so many seniors that would be using that pool, and I sincerely would support it, and my family would as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Adam Leverins. The agenda item for this mentioned the proposed aquatic center, and I very much appreciate all the very well done materials, but it would have been nice had they been attached to the agenda so there could be more, I could feel more informed before I come up here. During the presentation, I heard remarks that this would benefit the overall Newport community, that it would benefit great swaths of the community, and that it'd be good for District 2. I believe the Coastal Act requires access for everyone, not the people that are fortunate enough to reside in this community. And I don't know that a pool, I mean, I love a pool, I'm an avid swimmer. But as I appreciate the Harbor Commission's observations, or the gentleman from the Harbor Commission, if there are other places to site this and allow coastal access for people from inland, or the 909ers, as my sister refers to them, that I think is more appropriate and more approvable by the Coastal Commission. And the things that have been mentioned to me, there's almost nowhere to launch a trailable boat in Newport Harbor. Maybe an addition on that ground. I really love the educational aspect, and it's going to cost more, but you can get school tours coming from inland communities, and perhaps the revenue can be a major offset to the expenses of such a thing. Restrooms are critically important along the bay. I don't know that I'm sure the swimming pool would have restrooms, but restrooms access to kayakers, even a small marina, fishing facilities. As I understand it, this property, because it's on the water, should be used for water-dependent recreation due to the coastal plan. And a swimming pool, although it's water, a pool can be sited at one of the other locations. And Commissioner Sverchek mentioned some options, and I hope that that's looked into. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, David Tanner, members of the commission or council. I'd like to applaud your staff on an outstanding presentation, particularly the consultant, Mr. Petros at LSA. I think he and the staff have shown that they're fighters. I think Newport Beach is a strong city. I think these alternatives that we've heard from this site all ought to be in Newport Beach. And I challenge you, the staff and the staff's consultants, to find a way to make them all have a location in our city. Just think if the educational facility in the theater talked about space and space exploration and what that would look like to young kids, in addition to marine uses. So I'd like to bring up a point that was just brought up by the prior speaker and one previous to that, and that's the Coastal Act. They're going to be all about public access. We heard from staff in their preliminary presentation to you that they have a lot of activities booked. Those are going to take up the pool area during peak hour periods. Public wants to come in. There's soccer practice or something taking up the pools. So maybe it can't be that regulated. There has to be part of the facility set aside for the public during hours, and it's going to be particularly difficult during peak hours. So I think because of the amount of money that any of these alternatives are going to cost, we have to really look and try and get these things, the budget under control, because there's overrides. I think the schedule to get permitting, if you started now, is very optimistic. I don't think it's going to go anywhere near that quickly. Having had some experience in that field, I think I can advise you appropriately that it's going to take a lot longer. So I'd also like to know, since we're going to spend this kind of money, what other projects the city might have that they're going to have to postpone. And I'd like the citizens to know this. We're going to go ahead with these ideas that sound terrific, but it's going to have an effect that we're going to have to postpone other things unless we've got a way to find the money. And I'd also like to find a way where we can make more revenue, as the prior speaker said, from a pool use, wherever the pool use is located, and I think we need it. I think I'm for all of these ideas, but I think we need to make some money from the operation of this, so it's not a detriment to our city budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, council members. My name is Charlie Hannigan, and I was born in Newport Beach 13 years ago. Over the years, I've been involved in my schools. I'm currently in ASB at CDM Middle School, and last year I was elected school president at East Bluff Elementary. For as long as I can remember, I've been playing in the water. I was on Newport Beach Country Club swim team, have enjoyed 4 years of junior lifeguards, and I've been playing CDM polo for 4 years. Every day, I spend at least 2 hours in pools all around Newport Beach. When I'm done with practice, I often get into another pool to hang out with friends. I basically always smell like chlorine. Today, I'm here in support of the proposed new aquatic center that I recently realized that I had the opportunity to talk to Mayor Pro Tem Joe Stapleton. When I heard about the project, I immediately thought this is the best news I've heard about our city. A brand new pool that can be used for swimming, water polo, and many other activities is exactly what the city needs. One issue I've realized over the past years I've been at CDM High School pool is that my water polo team has to cut practice early because the adult swimmers who want to swim, because it becomes their turn at 6 p.m. My teammates and I often stop practice to help them install lane lines. While I'm glad everybody gets to use the pool for different purposes, it'd be better if CDM polo could practice longer, and all those adults could practice at a new pool. Not in a mean way. It's clear that there's a larger demand than supply, and the city needs more pools. It's not just me. I know hundreds of other people from swim teams, junior guards, CDM Polo, Newport Polo, and Back Bay Polo, and school who would be thrilled to have a new aquatic center. Pools are one of the most important things for the city and my life, and a new aquatic center would be amazing to use. The new aquatic center would be more than just a pool. It would be a place for people of all ages to come together for fun, exercise, and make friends, and for special events. And who knows, maybe one day my child will be able to practice CDM polo for an extra hour at the CDM pool because the adult lap swimmers will be at the aquatic center. Finally, if there's anything I could do to make the aquatic center a reality, I'm standing by to help. I could have 20 water polo players next week with shovels on site. Thank you.
All right, hang on. All right, so you're 13?
Yeah.
And you were president at East Bluff last year?
Yes.
And you're on ASB at CDM Middle School now? All right, I'll tell you what. As soon as we're done here, we're going to be taking a quick break. What I want you to do is I want you to come on up here, sit in this chair. We're going to take a picture of you so that 20 years from now, you can send me a picture of yourself actually sitting in this chair. Because that was really great. Charlie, thanks for speaking, man. All right. Stick around, though. I'm not kidding. I want you to take a picture in the chair.
Right.
All right.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. All right. Next speaker, please.
Mayor O'Neill, members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. This was on the agenda as a report of the ad hoc committee, and I went back and looked at resolution 2024-12 from February 27th, when you created through that resolution the ad hoc committee. I noticed it was charged with evaluating additional capital improvements, harbor and beach uses and/or recreational opportunities at the Lower Castaway site. And at the end of the staff report, as all staff reports do, there's a section about fiscal impact, and it said that the creation of the committee would have no fiscal impact on the city, although it appeared to me from the presentation that the subcommittee seemed to have a pretty substantial budget to hire all these consultants and prepare all this material. In the interest of further clarity about what the subcommittee did, I think it would be interesting to know if during their exploration of this idea they held any public meetings. It would be interesting to know who they sought input from, and it would be interesting to know what alternatives they considered. It's not clear to me that they had heard or considered the Harbor Commission alternative. I don't know if they heard other alternatives or considered things other than a pool at this location. I'm also wondering if before the council goes too far with this, our charter would suggest it should be getting, since this involves parks and recreation, a recommendation from our Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission. And not just one member of it, even if that member is the chair. I don't think they've formally made a recommendation or seen what the committee is considering. And finally, I did not quite understand the public-private partnership. I understand you're somehow going to raise a lot of money, but I don't know what the people contributing the money are expecting in return for that. Is it they will have exclusive use of it, or what is the idea? I don't quite know. One thing I do support is moving the historic sign marking the old landing back to its location where it should be. And if the Mayor Pro Tem is not aware of that, it was across the street on Dover Drive at this location previously, and in its wisdom or not, a previous council moved it to what seems to be the wrong location. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Honorable council members, my name's Sean McCarron. I'm a resident of Newport Beach. I live in Dover Shores. My current job is shuttling my 10-year-old around to various pools because Newport Harbor is shut down. Obviously, this is the beginning of a long public process, but I think the design looks incredible. I'm a big proponent of supporting the aquatics community. I've lived here for about 20 years, but I grew up in Long Beach, and I played water polo and swam. It was a big part of the community there. And they had this beautiful pool. It was called the Belmont Plaza Pool. I think it was built in '84 for the Olympics. And it was truly a community center. So all the high schools around had pools, but it took an immense amount of pressure off of those pools. And we would ride our bikes from school to that pool, and it became this just a big part of my youth, and we called it the Cathedral. And as kind of a cautionary tale, it was eventually torn down, I think, in around 2010 or so, and a pool hasn't been rebuilt there. And it has truly impacted Long Beach and its aquatics programs. They're working on rebuilding, but they lose a lot of folks to other schools now. So I think it's important that the city reinvests in the aquatics community. So I'm a big supporter, and I look forward to seeing you guys at future hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Mayor, Council people. I am Ann Kittleson, and I am a teacher at Corona Del Mar High School. I'm also a parent, and I was the prior swim coach there for many years, and I'm currently the swim board president. And I just wanted to make the statement that the sharing of the pool is extremely impactful for our students. And so I'm not sure that people understand it's not a swimmer versus non-swimmer situation. It's that our students actually aren't able to use the facility. I can't think of another situation if the gym, the basketball team was practicing and they had to clear out so that a couple guys from around the city could come in and shoot free throws. That I don't think that would be really well thought of. Also, I just wanted to make sure that people understood that we actually have to, when we have a swim meet, we have to book the event through the city. It's the only facility on our campus that we have zero control over. At the same time, when things go wrong with the pool, a lot of times it falls on us, and especially our the parent booster clubs, because we want to keep the facility as updated as possible, and we want to buy lane lines, things like that for the city. So it just really is difficult to share that facility. So I just wanted to speak from the high school perspective, and kids will have to go to school, and instead of the girls practicing in their year-long program, if the boys have a game, the parents have to take them home. Then they do their homework, and then they're interrupted from their homework, and they have to come back after lap swim at night instead of just practicing after school. And so things like that. It just impacts the high school quite a bit. So I wanted to make sure that I spoke for the school in that sense. And we have a lot of amazing athletes and student athletes. And finally, it is the high school students and the safety of the high school students. And kids are practicing and going into the locker room, and city members are just allowed to go into the showers and use the facilities like it's any other place. And to be honest, it's the middle of the high school day, and it's their practice time. So they need to have their places available for them to be student athletes on their campus. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further speakers, I'll bring it back up here. Councilmember Blom.
Thank you. I always look forward to these really quick study sessions. We're going to run through. I want to address a couple of pieces, and I think it's important that there was no stone left unturned when our ad hoc got together to see what we could do here. And thank you to the Harbor Commission. And Rudy, you've presented these ideas to me previously. They were not lost when we started looking at what this site could do. A couple of large issues in general that we hit immediately, and I'll take a stab at your presentation for the most part. We loved the idea of changing the roadway and encroaching into the hillside and adding another lane. And it is absolutely impossible for no less of 7 or 8 reasons, Tony, I think we got to. The brush on the hill, the coastal piece, the lane modifications, it became a non-starter. And so we really appreciate that piece. We looked at every possible traffic scenario coming in here. everyone. We suggested some insane deals, mainly Councilmember Stapleton. I was all pretty much normal, but he was crazy for this thing. So, and in that, we really got to a point where we're looking at what can we do here? And I love the idea of what do we add amenity-wise to this community? Your solutions and some of the spots you had recommended, NAC, the Dunes, and Sunset. Well, we were all just at Sunset. And even though that's been a pretty quick project, I think we wrapped that up in, 2012, and just got the bridge done. So it's been fairly quick. I think a pool on that site is just shy of the most impossible dream I could ever imagine in my entire life. NAC shares county land, and the Dunes is entirely county. And so that got me to thinking up here. Great plan. This is something the county needs to look at in Newport Beach. The Dunes is a perfect location for something like this. I think Katrina's probably listening to this meeting right now. So Katrina, let's get an aquarium in Newport. Can we do that? So Rudy, I'd love to task you with that job of getting in touch with the county and moving this idea for this beautiful, perfect aquarium for education into the Dunes and into a county facility. From our side, I get it. Education, moving people through, getting people from other places. That's everything we're looking to do in Newport. The other piece we talked about was the Coastal Commission thing. And this is really important. This is access. I don't think anyone at any point had talked about you show your ID and say you're from Newport Beach, and that's when you get in, right? This is access. This is a facility that actually gives coastal access instead of takes it away. I don't know many people that are going to this facility currently. And I think the ability to launch paddleboards, as Councilmember Stapleton was saying, and these kids' splash pads, I'm fine with the water polo community. You're doing okay. Charlie, for you, though, real quick, I might resign at the end of November, and you're taking my position up here. So I'm sorry, buddy, your speech was too good, and I'm ready to go. So
He has to be 18.
Charlie, I can get you documents. At the end of it, look, there is no point where any of us looked at this facility and said, what's the easiest thing to do? What do we do that we can just plant here real quickly? We sat there and we looked at every possible thing, and the insanity of ideas that flowed through were amazing. That's why we're up here. We're here to bring the insanity of a community forward and try to bring those ideas into a semblance of reality. And I think that's why there are so many people sitting in the front row, so many people that have invested in this. And at the end of the day, I understand education is super important. I do. But we have a culture here. And the culture of Newport Beach is to represent an aquatic community. It's literally in our name. We are a beach community, and we forever will be. This is something that invigorates that idea, pushes it forward to the next generation. And I mean, realistically, as I think the mayor can attest, this will be done after I'm gone. Thank God. But it's something that forever lives into the ideology of who we are. And so, I appreciate every vision that's brought to us. I appreciate all the visions for who we are. But in the end of the day, look, this site is built to be something centralized in Newport on a bay that will be iconic for all generations moving forward. And it will enable an element of our culture to move forward consistently. And that's important. We heard it from Charlie, and he has my vote moving forward. So, Charlie, for president. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Avery.
Yeah, I made a mention about how my district would be excited about this plan and is excited about this plan. And somebody said, well, it's not just for your district. Well, of course not. Just as I think the residents of Corona Del Mar were excited when the Oasis was being built and we had these special centers. Furthermore, there was some talk about, people from other cities, other ethnicities perhaps, that this wouldn't be available for, and that nothing could be further from the truth. And in my time here, the city has always been an open city to anyone coming. They don't need, they can come from Antarctica, it doesn't matter. So our Parks and Recs department works with kids all the time, and there's a lot of diversity if you go to these events. And I live right off Harbor High, and there's a lot of diversity at Harbor High. It's increasing all the time, and it's a good thing. So I just don't want anyone thinking that we're not open in that way. And all of these projects that we do are for in the entire community, are just anybody that wants to participate. So it should be clear. And those kinds of thoughts don't make me happy when people think that's what's going on.
Thanks, Brad. So what direction do you need from us tonight, Grace?
The direction, can we put up the one slide that had the ad hoc? We're looking for support of the item to move forward on the environmental work. And then to bring back further information as we do part of our planning session in end of January, beginning of February.
So tonight, and I'll come back to you, Councilmember Wagon, I saw you buzz in, but so tonight the discussion is essentially if we wanted to, the question is, do we want to move forward with at least kind of seeing where we get to, because it is a it's a tough site, and so the question is, within the concept of this, can we get to a pool concept? And if we want to do that, then essentially, are we looking at about $500,000 for really figuring out can we do it, and actually more than that, but it's kind of a can we do it, and then what would it look like to get the preliminary documents out of the way? Okay, Councilmember Wygan.
Yeah, just Simone, I want to ask a question about Coastal Commission. Would this kind of plan go to kind of just, get some ideas out of them to see if this would even be supportable, or what just that initial step, just say, hey, this is our idea. What do you think? Your staff's going to kind of jump in there a little bit to kind of find some answers for us on that.
Exactly. So I think the earlier comments were made that this is going to be a public facility. We do have coastal access with our hand launch area. We may need to do a little bit more with coastal access. But our next step would be, if the council's supportive, we're going to go ahead and have that dialogue with the Coastal Commission staff, present them with this preliminary design to say, what are we missing here? The city has permit jurisdiction, so we would issue the coastal development permit. Of course, it could be appealed up to the Coastal Commission, but we would have that dialogue on the front end with the staff and to see what did we miss, what do we need to be looking out for, and that's what we'll be doing next.
And then, Tony, for the traffic study, that will kind of analyze that. Mostly, I'm just concerned about that left turn lane going north, southbound when you're on a Dover, and there's going to be a U-turn. Just really look at that, because I sit in that traffic all the time coming to City Hall, and it backs up pretty bad. So people are doing a lot of U-turns. It's going to stop the ability to go that faster route going left instead of doing U. So just, I know you know what you're doing, and I just want to make sure that we really look that through, just to the impacts of the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Councilmember Blum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comments are mainly on the recommendation piece at this point. And at the will of the council, I believe beginning the entitlement process and kind of getting that piece rolling is first and foremost to see the parameters that are put in place and kind of what the obstacles look like. I think we can start rolling through the other ones, at a later date. I'm happy to address those now if we feel they're necessitated to move through the entitlement piece. But really, I think, we need these conversations out. And so that's, Simone, if you have anything to say about that, okay. So I think that would be my general recommendation moving forward, because that cost is palatable.
Yeah. No, I see that. All right, so it strikes me that what we should probably be doing is a straw poll on this to see if the ad hoc committee recommendations have a majority of council to be able to move forward with this. So if you favor the ad hoc committee recommendations, go ahead and raise your hand.
At 7-0.
All right. All right, real quick before, my intention tonight, given the timing, a couple quick notes. As mayor, I get to move some stuff around, so I'm going to go ahead and move the closed session to after item number 17. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, because we have so many people here that were specific for this study session item, I'm going to give a quick 5-minute break to let folks get up and go. Ma'am, you're going to be the first person after this 5-minute break, and the only reason I'm not bringing you up is because if I open up the public comments, I've got to keep them open. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back from the 5-minute break. I'll open up public comments. You'll be the first one up, and then we'll move forward into the regular agenda. And like I said, I'm going to move the closed session to after 17. So let's see. We will be starting back up at 6:10. All right. Thanks. Heck yeah. Great presentation on that note. Okay. Good? Okay. All right. Welcome back from our break. We're going to go ahead and start up with public comments. One quick note as I'm opening this up is we're going to roll right from public comments into the regular meeting. And so if you're planning on speaking to a specific item, or on non-agenda, if you do that during this next opening part of the public comments, that will constitute it for that item as well. All right. I'm now going to, I'm sorry. You know what? Madam Clerk, go ahead.
The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are invited on items listed on the agenda and non-agenda items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items.
All right. Ma'am, now it's your time. Thank you so much for being patient.
First, I want to apologize to step in.
Oh, not at all.
Before my turn.
No, thank you.
This is my first time coming to council meeting. My name is Manzar Nabi. I live in Newport, Crystal Cove community subdivision. And our house is in the first row. They call it Seascape, and very close. We live very close to Trader Joe. 5 days a week, we have to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning with horrible, terrible noise of gas-operated blowers. This equipment is just create horrible, terrible sound, and is very, very unsafe for the person who's using it. These poor gardeners. One day I stopped, as I was walking. I walk early in the morning sometimes. And I said, tell your boss to get you electrical equipment. Why are you using this? This is obsolete in most cities in California. He said, Ma'am, I need my job. That was his answer. So I came here to you. I ask you, please, I know is banned in Newport Beach, but I don't know why not in my neighborhood, Crystal Cove. I do appreciate if you can help me out with this agenda.
Okay. So a couple things. I can't recall, Aaron, if commercial establishments were exempted from that. I know that HOAs are.
Yeah, so it's residential districts primarily, not commercial.
Okay.
So well, what about us?
I'm sorry, ma'am. So I'll just do this real quickly. So during public comment, we won't be able to have too much back and forth. You're welcome to reach out to me directly, and I'll make sure I give my card to our city attorney. But on the gas-powered blower, if it's down in a commercial area, it's a good idea to report that to code enforcement. If it's within a residential area like Crystal Cove, your HOA is actually the one that controls whether they're using gas-powered or electric, and so you'd have to go talk to your HOA board. But I'm going to make sure I hand my card to our city attorney, and you can grab it right from him.
I appreciate it. I did get in touch with HOA said I have to get in touch with the council.
Okay, we'll try to sort out the bureaucracy there. If you just hang out there for just a moment. All right, next speaker, please.
Thank you, Council. What a great study session. We started at 5. All right. Good job. I just wanted to say, Dennis Bress, Balboa Island resident, two things. One, we have the Cowboy Carnival coming up for the Balboa Island Museum, which is not this Friday, but next Friday, and you guys are all invited, and we'd love to see you there. It's going to be a great event. It's one of our big fundraisers for the Balboa Island Museum of the year, so it's going to be fun over at the Fun Zone. And then second is, the ballots have arrived. It's voting time. Civic duty is what we have to do. So I've got my ballot in and just making the request. Everybody get your ballots in and do your civic duty and vote. And thanks for everything you do for the great city of Newport Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please, on public comments.
My name is Dr. Smiley. I was here last about 4 months ago after my daughter was allegedly murdered in your city, killed by a drunk driver. And I haven't been back because I've been shifting my focus in one direction, which is changing drunk driving legislation. And I've been partnering with my local assemblyman and my local senator. And there's a Rosenda's law being written right now to reform drunk driving. I'm just from a little town in Colorado. I happen to be valedictorian in my high school and earned an academic scholarship to USC. And since then, I earned 3 other degrees. So what that takes is persistence. And I don't go away easily and I don't quit easily. And I happened to be in touch with Spencer, the policymaker for Senator Ochoa Beau. And I mentioned that I was coming down here to talk to you about your unsafe streets on Balboa Peninsula. And he said, what a coincidence. There's state funding. There's grants available right now for cities to apply for to fix unsafe streets. And it's funny because I was hearing you talking about and thank you for staying off your phone this time. I appreciate it. You were talking about the culture of your city, the ideology. Like I said, I'm just from a little town in Colorado, but I can tell you Newport Beach is world famous, right? Before I came here, I came here because I do USC because of the football team in the 70s, right? And I thought, well, if I'm going to go anywhere, I'm going to go to Southern California, man. But even I had heard of Newport Beach, right? And you would think that Newport Beach would be a leader in safety. Balboa Peninsula, the streets are unsafe. Every person I've talked to there has either seen somebody get struck in a crosswalk as a pedestrian, has seen it, has been hit themselves, has seen somebody get hit, or knows of somebody who's been hit at a crosswalk there. And I kind of read a cursory report you wrote back in 2017 and kind of rolled my eyes at it. And I emailed you guys some information. It's rudimentary at best about the cost of what it would take to modernize the safety standards on Balboa Peninsula. They have lights, they cost like $60,000, and they come over the top and they go beep, 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 right? About $60,000 per crosswalk. They have some where they have beams on the side of the crosswalk. They strobe on the crosswalk, about $16,000 each. You could put up a sign, like a blinky sign, about $1,000 a sign. You can do a solar powered one for $800 a sign, and it would blink and light up when the cars come, right? Not very much money. I also have some information. May I approach, or is that against the rules, or can I bring you information?
Give it to him.
How does that work? I'd also like you to take one of these, take one down. Can I give these two? These 7 are for the 7 of you. If you'd each take one, I'd appreciate it. That one goes to her memorial page. To elevate the sidewalks, where you can elevate them and it makes the crosswalk a speed bump, the average cost is about $8,000 a crosswalk. But let's say it was 15,000 a crosswalk, and there's 20 crosswalks on Balboa Peninsula. We're talking about $300,000. And so
I'm sorry, sir. I need you to wrap up, please.
I'm going to wrap up right now.
Okay.
It's a little frustrating for me as a father of a dead little girl to hear you guys talk about spending $47 million, but only half will be the year cost, right? But you don't want to spend $300,000, $500,000 to modernize your streets. What I'd like to do is one of you, contact me. I emailed you already, and I'd like to partner with you. I have rudimentary information this time. If I don't hear from you, I'll be back with more sophisticated information. I won't be going away until I find a way to convince all of you to modernize the safety on Balboa Peninsula and bring it up to the standards. Newport Beach should be a leader.
I'm sorry,
It shouldn't
sir.
be 20 years behind. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Please take the spaghetti dinner thing. I don't expect you guys to come to the mountain, but feel free to donate to my daughter's GoFundMe. On Fuel Social Change Movement, I encourage you to be a part of it.
All right. Next speaker, please.
Mayor O'Neill, as you know, my name is Jim Mosier. This is the opportunity to comment on the closed session, which is now at the end of the meeting.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. At the end of the meeting, you are going to be adjourning to closed session for what on the agenda says will be a performance evaluation of the city manager. As I mentioned in writing, her contract allows but does not require you to set goals for her performance during the year. And I just wanted to emphasize or suggest it would be in the interest of transparency, good for the people of Newport Beach to know in that closed session, do you actually set goals for her or not? At the moment, we have no idea because it comes back if one waits to the end of that session, no reportable action. So it would be helpful, I think, for the public to know whether goals exist or not, even if you don't share with us what those goals are. And then secondly, this is a closely related but non-agenda item. As you know, through our charter, the city manager is your primary conduit for communicating with all of the employees that we have in the city, with the exception of the city clerk and city attorney. And I assume those employees through her communicate back to you in some way, and I would assume sometimes you receive like memos giving you background on information, and the public isn't really aware of when that would happen. And so the additional comment I would like to make in the interest of transparency, an improvement you could make is I was recently researching the builder's remedy in other cities that have problems with that, and Google directed me to the city of Cupertino, which does have a problem with builder's remedy applications in R1 areas. And I was surprised to see on their website that their city manager posts the informational memos that go to the city council for everybody to see on the city website. I looked into it very, very briefly this afternoon, and I understand the city of Long Beach also does that, and the little city of Tracy up north also does that. There are probably many more. It would seem like a good thing for the public to know those things. Sometimes they came from the city manager's office, some from their community development, and sometimes from their city attorney. And many of those things there were no problem sharing with those with the public. It would seem like a good idea to do that in Newport Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? All right, bring it back. All right, we're now going to move into the invocation by Chaplain Kathy Gilbert from Calvary Chapel of Costa Mesa. Pledge of Allegiance, we'll go with Councilmember Wigan tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. You first, Kathy.
I'm first, okay. Yep. So, Father, I'm just so grateful to be here, and I just thank you that you're here, and I thank you that that you love us, that you're for us, that you're coming after us, and you will never give up on us. And I just pray and thank you for the fact that you delight in answering prayer. And I thank you for in your word that you declare that if we just pray and give thanks, for those in authority over us, so that we may live a peaceable and quiet life in all godliness and holiness. And with that in mind, I just pray for the mayor. I pray for the mayor pro tem. I pray for the city council members, the city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney, as well as other officials in the government. And specifically, just want to pray for Public Works and the fire department and the police department. So grateful for them and so thankful for you, Lord. We just also specifically ask for upcoming election that your will be done, and specifically asking for the city council seats, Lord, your will be done there. And Lord, I just would like to pray for the upcoming consideration for the contract for the playground, improvements for San Miguel Park. I would like to pray for the purchase of the frontline city fire engines that are going to be considered as replacements, Lord. I just pray for the wisdom and counsel for that. I pray for the approval of updating park and lieu fees and those other considerations along those lines, Lord. And finally, I just would like to pray for the citizens of this city, that you will bless and protect and provide, especially for our children, Lord, that they will be safe and flourishing. I just pray for the areas of need in homelessness and loneliness, Lord, and I just pray for your ability that we can love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And I want to just say all these things and thank you, because you're going to answer, and I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me and we salute our nation's flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has a discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items.
All right, now is the time for City Council announcements and oral reports from City Council on committee activities. Councilmember Kleiman.
I'll be quick. I attended my monthly Orange County Council of Governments meeting, had the opportunity to be a judge for the Sandcastle contest at CDM Main Beach. It was a lot of fun, along with Councilmember Grant. And this week we kicked off our first class of our fall session of the Newport Beach Foundation's Distinguished Citizen Program.
Thank you. Councilmember Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to add.
Councilmember Avery. Councilmember Wigan.
Yeah, last Tuesday I held a town hall for residents in Santa Ana Heights. We had a robust discussion. There was a lot of passion up there. They haven't had a town hall in quite some time, so we had a lot of back and forth. But I want to thank our Public Works Director, our Community Development Director, also Assistant City Manager, but our Traffic Engineer and our Area 3 Commander all came and gave a lot of time out of their schedule, and I appreciate that because we went pretty late, and I may be bringing some stuff forward in the future, but I thought it was a good opportunity to connect with those residents. So that was my report.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Grant.
Okay, I have a little bit, but I'm going to speak fast. A lot of things happened in the city this week. I was able to attend the Library Leadership Donor Appreciation Reception with Mayor O'Neill. He did a wonderful job addressing the audience there. Loved doing the Sandcastle building. And I actually built a sandcastle, but then was able to judge with Councilmember Kleiman. I tried to get her to come and build. She wouldn't build. So I don't know what's wrong with that, but she was a good judge. And attended the Newport Beach Chamber Economic Forecast. I want to thank them for doing that, as well as the sandcastle building contest. Oasis had a stellar rummage sale. I don't know if I'm going to steal their thunder, but they made a lot of money at their rummage sale. We can build a pool for sure. Lido Theater ribbon cutting was iconic. Amazing amount of work went into renovating the Lido Theater to its historic grandeur. It's iconic. Fire Service Day, thank you to our men and women in the Fire Service Department. A great day for the community. I was out with Sean Levin and the Rec Department. They launched the FIN program. It's a wonderful free program bringing youth into our city to spend the part of the week at the dunes and learn all about the aquatic nature of our community, exactly what we've been talking about today. And then also today we had another iconic event, the Sunset Ridge Bridge ribbon cutting. Wonderful. Just a few more things. I want to congratulate Chief Cartwright. He got the Above and Beyond Award from the Crime Survivors Resource Center. Much deserved, and thank you so much for serving our city so well. We've got a free mulch giveaway and document shredding and e-waste disposal. I love that day. I love getting the free mulch. I just love going over there and dropping off all my paper and getting the mulch and seeing our Public Works Department in action. It's a great day. And
What day is that?
that is on October 19th. And then we have November 5th election. We've got voting center opening up across the way in the community room. I think that's on October 26th, so we can all go over there and vote if we want to vote in person. And then finally, another iconic event in our city, Film Festival kicks off on Thursday the 17th and goes to Thursday the 24th. Get some tickets. There's an amazing amount of incredible films, celebrities, opportunities for free education. We're all talking about education here today, all of that with the Film Festival. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilwoman Kleiman wouldn't support you in the Sand Building Castle contest, but she is going to be here for the free mulch with you. So, just congrats to the Newport Chamber of Commerce. They had their economic forecast. They did a terrific job with that. I also attended the Crime Survivors event, so congrats to Patricia and to Chief Cartwright and the entire department for getting the award for that. Fire Service Day, best one I've ever seen. More people there, tons of kids. It was great. The highlight was seeing Charlie Palmer, who's committed to being a firefighter at the young age. So I can't wait to see him in those in the fire hat. Yeah, in Sunset Bridge, I've been going back past that bridge for, I don't know when we started construction on that project, but it's been a long time. So congratulations to staff and the previous councils who helped make that happen. It's a terrific thing to see, and the community seems very receptive. I'm stoked on our Distinguished Citizen Program and our 11th class that started last week, and then. The Lido Theater, Sugar Ray, Mark McGrath performing. It was definitely an iconic moment for the city of Newport Beach. 1939, the Lido Theater was built for the price of $100,000. The Fritz Duda Company put a lot more in that to renovate the building to what it is today. So congrats to him and to McGee and to Jordan Otterbein with the River Jetty Group. They're going to be doing a lot of programming, live music, films. That's going to be one heck of a thing for the city. So another terrific building and project in the city of Newport. So couldn't be happier.
Thank you. A couple things. Wanted to say thank you to all of the organizers of the Orange County Mayor Prayer Breakfast. Really well attended, and I enjoyed speaking. The Crime Survivors event was really phenomenal over at the Newport Beach Country Club. I was also able to welcome everyone to the city of Newport Beach. As you may recall, we actually gave Patricia and Crime Survivors a proclamation earlier this year, thanking them for everything that they've done. I was at the Crystal Cove soiree, helping support the Crystal Cove Conservancy. Fire Service Day was amazing. And then this morning, Councilmember Kleiman, Councilmember Grant, and I attended the Newport Mesa Unified School District's State of the Schools, which I really appreciated as well. All right, Madam Clerk.
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion. Those are items 1 through 15. Public comments are also invited on consent calendar items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered routine and all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and are removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
All right, Council, any items to pull or conflicts to note? Councilmember Kleiman?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item number 3, please.
Okay. Councilmember Blom?
Amazingly, no.
Councilmember Avery?
I have none.
Councilmember Weigand?
None for me.
Councilmember Grant?
Yes, I'm in accord. I would like to pull 3 as well.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
I have none.
All right, and I have none either. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move the consent calendar except for item number 3, which is pulled by Councilwoman Kleiman and Grant, and to the amendments to item number 1, the minutes.
All right, I'll go ahead and second that one. We'll go out to public comment at this time on the consent calendar, absent item number 3, which has been pulled.
David Tanner, members of the council, I dedicate these comments to the memory of my friend Ernie Snyder, the Chief Administrative Officer of the County of Orange from 1989 to 1995. At that time, he had one of the highest paid government positions in the state. He was happily married. Mr. Snyder was the chief administrative officer when the county declared bankruptcy in 1994 because of its disastrous investment practices. I would like to comment on the minutes of the October 24th council meeting, specifically item 17, the general plan update. Given the fact that the city has been sued on this action, it is important that the minutes be fact-checked and corrected where necessary for accuracy. Specifically, during the council meeting, staff and members of the city council referenced the number of residents and organizations that participated in the general plan update process. The presentation made it sound like they all supported the update. The minutes should identify the number of residents and organizations that support the update. In the staff summary of the events leading up to the general plan approval, staff made no mention of the city council determining that the general plan update would be subject to the city charter requiring a vote of the public. This is critically important because residents such as myself and organizations allocated significantly less resources on the city's general plan update, knowing they would have a vote on the update per the city charter. Staff summary did not mention that cities that are cooperating with HCD and moving forward with a housing element update are not being penalized by the state. Mayor O'Neill, the minutes reflect you abstained from voting on this item. You have been the lead city council individual on the general plan update since 2019. The minutes need to reflect a complete explanation as to why you abstained. Specifically, have you had any communications with people and or entities that would benefit from the adoption of item 17? If yes, a comprehensive list of whom and when must be provided. It would have been appropriate for you to have disclosed this conflict of interest to the city council and the public in 2019 when you took on this responsibility. But you didn't do that, did you? Similarly, the minutes should state whether any members of the city staff or city council had communications with people and or entities that would benefit from the adoption of item 17, and a list of whom and when must be provided. The minutes should also reflect when any member of the city council or staff believed they could circumvent the city charter and not take this item to the vote by the public, or believed the city charter did not require a vote of the public. A list of whom you talked to and when should be provided. As we saw at the October 24th, 2024 City Council meeting, statements were made by both sides regarding who was influencing the council and SPAWN. Unfortunately, given the litigation, this is just the beginning. In closing, members of the staff and council, I want to ask you to think about one question. Do you think the mayor, who will be one of the targets of this...
Thank you, Mr. Tanner.
I'll wrap
No,
it
I
up.
think you're done. Thank you, Mr. Tanner. You've reached your 3 minutes. All right, next speaker, please. Okay, coming to him back. Mr. Tanner, you've been here plenty of times. You know the protocol. To the extent that I need to respond, and I will take point of personal privilege to do so, I have no idea what he's talking about in terms of conflict of interest. I also think that it is a good indication of who your friends are when the only council member up here who said that he agreed with the interpretation Mr. Tanner's advocating for is the one getting attacked. Anyway, it's a good reminder. All right, let's go ahead and move into the vote itself. So on the consent calendar, any other comments? Real quick before we vote, I just want to say to our Parks and Rec department, thank you. This San Miguel Park is a big deal. It's a really big deal. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you've been doing to get us to this point, and especially at all of the other parks, taking the steps to make sure that kids, especially kids, but folks that have developmental disabilities have access to our playground equipment. I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for item 4, ordinance 2024-22, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach amending sections 21.18.30 residential coastal zoning districts general development standards, 21.38.40 nonconforming structures, and 21.38.50 nonconforming uses of Title 21 Local Coastal Program Implementation Plan of the Newport Beach Municipal Code to conform with state law and correct errors related to setbacks. Councilmember Grant. Need your vote. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
All right, item number 3 has been pulled. Do you need a staff recommendation, or excuse me, a staff discussion, Councilmember Kleiman? Okay. Do you want to speak to it?
What?
I can. I just think that it would be valuable to the community to hear a staff report about why this particular item was included as a needed update to our existing code and what its real impact would be. I think that we've maybe had some internal discussions with staff, and that would be valuable for us to get that on the record and bring it to the community. I don't know if you agree with. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I would first just say I think we're interested in separating the two out and only discussing the short-term lodging piece.
A general comment would be that in this instance, these things were just so different. They were finance related, but the content was so broad that it might have been also a benefit to have them be separate items, but we're not really necessarily discussing demolition permits in our query here. So,
Jason, go ahead.
Mayor Will O'Neill and members of the City Council. So, Jason Almem, your finance director. So the enforcement program that oversees short-term lodging is a joint effort between the finance department and community development. So whenever a violation occurs, community development is responsible for issuing an administrative citation. And from the point at which that citation is mailed to the property owner, they have 21 days to, they have an appeal period for 21 days. If they miss that appeal period, there's no way to appeal the underlying citation. If there are 2 citations that are issued within a 12-month period, then the finance department is responsible for issuing a notice of intent to suspend the underlying permit. And in fact, there's actually 3 citations issued within a 12-month period. The finance department would issue a notice of intent to revoke the underlying permit. The appeal period for revocations and suspensions is 30 days. And so there's been a few instances over the last 2 years that I've been here for which there has been an actual situation that arisen that the property owner missed the appeal period. So in one case, there was a husband and a wife that were going through a divorce. And I think because of the change in addresses, the underlying citation actually didn't make it to the underlying property owner. They weren't actually notified actually until the finance department issued that notice of intent to revoke the underlying permit. And at that time, they could appeal the underlying notice of intent to revoke, but the underlying citations were not appealable. So they were in a bind, and so we thought that it would be prudent to allow for an opportunity under extraneous circumstances to allow the finance director to extend out those timelines just to afford a process of due process. We thought that would be fair and prudent, frankly, just to allow then the property owner to appeal that citation and the underlying notice of intent to revoke or suspend that permit and have it heard before an administrative hearing officer. We have third-party administrative hearing officers that rule on these, and they're rotated in and out every couple of years. And so we just want to make sure that every property owner who has a permit, a short-term lodging permit, has afforded the opportunity to share their side of the story as it relates to the underlying citations and revocations and suspensions.
I just have a couple questions. So, how many times, approximately like in a year period, how many times do you think this happens? Like, it's you're talking about a very specific kind of a circumstance. This is not just a hardship, like, it's not really a hardship kind of a thing. It's more of like a disconnect between the city and the permit holder?
Exactly. So it's a little nuanced. The citations are issued by community development, and those are mailed to the property on address with the county. And in some cases, when finance issues a notice of intent to suspend or revoke, we send it to the address that's on file with the short-term lodging permit renewal form. And so in these cases, we've had discrepancies to where they haven't updated the records, the address on file with the county, so they never got the underlying citation, but they did get the notice of intent to revoke their permit. But again, they could appeal the revocation, but they can't appeal the underlying citations. It actually precludes them from actually being able to weigh in on those underlying citations.
I guess I'm wondering if we need to fix our noticing as opposed to extending the appeal period. I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand, and maybe Councilmember Kleiman has something to say, but the other thing I would mention is...
Councilmember Grant, to that point specifically, I have talked with both our Assistant City Manager and Finance Director about clarifying that and making sure we get the notice appropriately sent out and have like a, either a double check or some kind of system there. But the issue is right now, if we have an outlying, this situation has occurred, it would provide just an opportunity to have that, at least the hearing, an appeal heard on the matter. Still, it's not to the substance of it. So the citations could very well be upheld, and then it would move on to the suspension or revocation process. And to answer your first question specifically, I think, Jason, you said you think, based on your experience, maybe one or two in the course of a year would, warrant to be able to do that adjustment and allow the appeal.
I guess I'm paying a lot of attention to this because this is an especially sensitive topic for many in our community, and we want to be mindful of that. I'm wondering, is there not in the code, maybe our city attorney would know, like a broad, like discretionary appeal from revocations that applies, like, in that kind of circumstance, like an extenuating circumstance? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
So we don't have that. When we originally drafted these short-term lodging provisions, we put some really hard provisions in there without the ability to extend them, so that there wouldn't be as much discretion involved in making these decisions. But I think as we've seen, as this is rolled out and implemented, there are some circumstances that come up where it seems to be appropriate to grant extension. I know one of the people that Jason had to deal with in a similar circumstances had some mental health issues. So didn't quite maybe understand exactly what was being told to them, so they missed the appeal period. And that person was an agent for the owner, so the owner gets revoked because the agent maybe didn't really understand. So I don't think it's something that comes up often, and maybe we could take a look at some type of broader, provision that was kind of, deals with the entire code. But that's part of the reason why this is here is that occasionally somebody will miss the deadline, maybe through no fault of their own, and if Jason would determine there's good cause, he could grant extension procedurally, but like he said, it doesn't deal with the substantive issues. I don't think it comes up all that often.
Do we have, do you know if we do have a broader thing that exists, or are you saying we could look at adding something?
We do not have one.
Okay, because I'm not interested in adding more to our code necessarily. I just wondered if maybe there was something already there. I guess, I'm hearkening back to when these provisions were added. I wasn't necessarily on council, but I did follow it, and some of it has, bled into our council here. And I am sensitive to the idea that we are fairly restrictive because these opportunities are kind of a conflict in our community. So I'm sensitive to the community concerns about it, and also that this idea, and I'm not sure if this happens this way, but I'm just extrapolating that if people aren't getting notice of the revocation or of the citation, are they responding to the abuses that might be happening at their property, whether they're intentional or not? But this is a business that people are operating, and they have a certain responsibility. So when we're talking about noticing and no response and problems within residential communities and commercial operations and all that, I just want to make sure that we are efficiently monitoring this enterprise, because it is very important to our community.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. My concerns are very much the same as Councilmember Grant said. This is a sensitive issue for those impacted by these units, and transferability in particular is problematic. So I don't know. I guess I understanding that we have had a discussion about kind of closing that gap with the noticing, maybe we could continue this part of this item, give it some time to see if the noticing addresses the problem. If not, we can certainly bring it back and hopefully have it a little more vetted out. I don't know if there's any other discussion up here, or, well, I guess we need to open it up for public comment, but I would be interested in separating the two, going with staff recommendation for the other part of this agenda item, and then continuing this to a date uncertain.
All right, Councilmember Avery.
Yeah, I'd like to think we have the bandwidth to do just that. You know, it's a fraught thing, and if it was happening a lot, I feel differently. But if these are onesie twosies, and I think as you unroll it, you get sort of a trust going that it makes sense what happened, and there isn't someone trying to subvert the system and screw it up. I just think we have the bandwidth to do that, and particularly your office. And I'll just add, and I don't want to open anything else up, but the same is true with the moorings and the revocation of moorings. And it's, I know from personal accounts, people who've lost their moorings were devastated, and it was very hard. And it's not the city's fault, but the same sort of process should be given to them. And I know, and perhaps it is, but these things they need to be dealt with carefully and sensitively, and I just think a city like ours should be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jason, we're going to go to public comment on this one. Any public comment on this item?
Mayor O'Neill, members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. First, with regard to the other part of this, which has to do with construction and demolition permits, I believe, I don't know if you are as puzzled as I am. Is it truly only about demolition permits, or is it changing the process for all for the waste generated by all construction and demolition, or at least large construction projects? It appears to be that, to me, it appears not to be just be about demolition permits. As to the part of it that you are discussing about short-term lodgings, I agree with Councilmember Grant that a broad statement of leniency in our municipal code would probably be a good thing if it's possible to articulate when we want to be lenient. But I also agree with the comments I saw from Denise Oberman that this particular situation seems probably to be one where you want to be the least lenient rather than the most. There's already been a question of whether the permit should be transferable at all, in addition to the thing about violations. And as we understand that having a short-term lodging permit is a privilege, it's not a property right that attaches to the property. And the people that have the privilege of having them should be vigilant about following the rules for keeping their permit active. And if they want to transfer it to somebody, to follow the rules for doing that. So this does not seem like it should be the thing that we particularly single out to address as something we're very lenient about. And additionally, just saying good cause, I think, is much too vague. Our current finance director may have an interpretation of that, but a future one may have a very broad interpretation of what good cause should be, and without giving specific examples of what that would be, and especially what that would not be a good cause, I don't think it's a good thing to enact. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? All right, we'll bring it back. Sort of strikes me, before I'm going to come to you, Councilmember Wagon, but it sort of strikes me based on some of the comments I'm hearing up here that it would be a better, I'm not sure how to break it out, given that we've got code provisions that are covering both in our agenda item,
my suggestion would frankly be, let's punt this one, and then bring it back in two separate items. One of them being the, I'm sorry, what's the? Demolition, thank you. The demolition, that one can be put back on consent at the next council meeting. And then the other one, sounds like it kind of needs a little bit more work. Councilor Wygan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just was going to say that if there's an address on file, let's kind of get that fine-tuned. If one department has one address and another department has a different address, if there's a business/LLC that gets, these things, let's make sure it gets to them and to maybe the property address or, the address on file. Like, there could be multiple things going on there. So I don't know if that can be internally cleaned up, but that's an option as well. So thanks.
I'm open to folks who pulled it making the motion, but the motion I think is just to continue the item consistent with what I just said.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Moved. Second by Councilmember Blom. Let's go ahead and vote. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. A motion for continuance technically needs to have a specific date. Why don't we put this on for the demolition for the next meeting, and then the item for the short-term lodging, the first meeting in November. Sorry, is that okay with the maker of the motion? Second? Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, point of clarification.
Yep.
I guess you can have a time uncertain I guess I'd want to ask staff if they feel comfortable getting it back to us by that point in time, if that's okay. Look, maybe.
I think we can bring it back. Do you want give us some guidance? And do we want to bring back? Because a lot of different proposals. One was to wait and see if the new noticing provisions, if there's issues that arise. That was one option. The other one's bring it back as is. Another one could be, add another level of appeal where the city council, it could be, determined by the finance director but appealable to the city manager. Or we could do it where you put in some guardrails where you basically say these are, what it means to have good cause. So I think there's a lot of options there. But
I guess what I just was asking, is that enough time for staff to get back to Mr. Mayor's request?
I think the time's fine. It'll just come back as is then, if that's the motion.
Yeah, okay. Then, all right. Fair enough. Let's draw down the motion voting for a moment, Leilani, because I do think we need to clarify real quickly. All right. We can easily bring back demolition. That's a fair point about the policy, because if we're just bringing it back as is, that probably doesn't, that's definitely, actually not probably, that definitely does not solve the concerns or direction given here. Jason, come on up for a second. So the question that's in front of us, one of the points that was just made by our city attorney is that there is an aspect of timing here to kind of see how things play out and then come back with something a little more certain. What do you think in terms of that?
To confirm, we're talking about short-term lodging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think we just wait and see. And if the process, there are problems that won't be resolved because they've already occurred and there's no remedy. So they may file a claim with the city, but that's the remedy. And then going forward, we can make sure that noticing is done more consistently. I think that will resolve the problem.
Yeah, sort of strikes me that the real issue is probably creating an appeal process for a hardship exemption. And frankly, it probably needs to come to. I would think it probably needs to come through council, given the nature of the beast here.
Yeah, so I mean, we could have the Jason make the initial determination and then report that, so the city council has time to call it up for review if they would like to hear it themselves. That's one option.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right direction, because it gives us insight on what's going on, and as well as the ability to make the decision if there's a particularly problematic situation, or just a problematic situation in general, frankly. All right. Councilmember Kleiman, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Councilmember Grant?
Can you repeat it? Can you repeat?
Yeah, so the thought process is instead of doing it the way that is proposed right now, where it's essentially on our finance director to make the decisions on hardship, he would make the decision, but then it would have to be reportable to the council, at which point the council, under our normal procedures for calling an item up for review, would be able to be reviewable by the council so that we have final say over a reinstatement if we decided that it was an inappropriate decision by the finance director.
So I have absolute confidence in our finance director. Let me just say that I think that you do an amazing job. I'm just wondering if that's the right portal for it to be. And I feel like it's a shared responsibility between community development and finance. Mm-hmm. And most of what happens along the timeline is at the community development. There's code enforcement, and then it goes to community development. And then there's an appeal, and it's heard by an administrator. Is that right? So I feel like that determination of the hardship should really be more at the administrator level. Jason then takes the baton on the finance side and says, okay, if the permit's extinguished, then we're taking you off the rolls. We're not that kind of thing. So I feel like that's where I feel like it should be bounced back down. And it's not because I don't have faith in Jason in making that. It just doesn't feel like that's your role. I feel like if there's a hardship, it should be reported back to the administrator, whoever is, so that's my thought.
I think Jason made a good point, though. I think that we've revised the noticing provisions, and a lot of this stemmed, I think, from maybe some differences of how things were getting noticed between the two different departments. It seems like that problem has now been solved. Do we want to just wait and see if this continues to be a problem and maybe bring it back at that point, as opposed to trying to craft something right now?
I'm fine with that, but I'm also fine with the hardship appeal. I just feel like it should be at the level of the administrator, and then Jason takes over if the permit is actually revoked after all the hardship appeals and all that are done. That would be my thought. But I'm open to whatever works best from a city staff standpoint. It just makes more sense to me.
Councilmember Blum.
I just think I'm in full agreement with what my colleagues have said about the waste side. I think this requires a little bit more thought and time and a longer continuance on that. So if the mayor would agree to that, I think we can push this and punt this a little farther down the line.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think the administrator idea is an interesting one. I think that given how rarely this happens, I would suggest that this probably comes up during the council study session in January as part of the planning session. So I'll suggest a different motion then. So I would suggest the motion be on the demolition side, that it come back at the next meeting. For the short-term lodging side, comes back to the planning meeting. My suspicion is short-term lodging will probably be a larger discussion during that time period anyway, but you can kind of see how it plays out and make recommendations from a process standpoint. All right. Councilmember Kleiman.
I will make that motion.
It's a good motion. It sounds like a good motion to me. And then I'll go with Councilmember Blum on the second. All right, let's go ahead and vote now.
Gene's trying to catch up. Okay, let's do hand vote. All in favor? That is 7-0.
All right. So let's see. Excuse me, Madam Clerk.
Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes before speaking. Please state your name for the record.
All right. Now it's time for public comments. Any public comments? All right, bring it back. Move into item number 16. I'm going to go ahead and declare a conflict, as will the Mayor Pro Tem, because of membership at Pacific Club. Given that the two of us are conflicted out, I'm going to spread out the love on this one and give it to another former mayor, Councilmember Blum, to go ahead and run.
Mayor, I also have a conflict to announce. I need to recuse due to my husband's employment.
Got it. All right. Thanks.
I'm just kidding. All right, wonderful. Welcome home. Welcome back. All right. Councilmember
Councilmember Blum, Simone Georges, Assistant City Manager, and with me is Jaime Murillo, Deputy Director. You do have an extensive staff report. Would you like a presentation? This is a fee credit on an existing development agreement.
What's this look like? Long, short?
About 8 slides.
Let's go with it.
Okay. There we go. Mr. Murillo.
Thank you, Simone. Good evening, Council. So as someone mentioned, this is a request to amend an existing development agreement. The request is rather simple. It's to allow for excess park in lieu fee credits to be used towards residential developments, public benefit fee obligations. Just to provide a little bit of background, this is related to the Uptown Newport Planned Community Project, which is in the airport area along Jamboree Road north of MacArthur Avenue. The Uptown Newport project was one of the first residential projects approved in the airport area. It was a phased development for a total of 25 acres of mixed-use development that allow up to 1,244 residential units, 2 one-acre parks, and 11,500 square feet of retail. So there's really 2 phases. We're near the completion of phase 1. Within phase 1, we've had the one Uptown Newport project. That's the 458 unit apartment complex fronting Jamboree Road. We have the Park House Residences. That's a 30-unit condo project. As you can see on the site plan there, it's near completion and is ready for certificates of occupancy either this month or next month. And then within that is also the Uptown Newport Residences, which is a 60-unit condo project. You can see on the site plan, it's fully entitled, and it's in the plan check stage right now. Phase 1 also includes a park, which has been fully improved. Phase 2 is a portion of the project where the Jazz Semiconductor site is currently located and operating. They have a lease until 2027. Once that lease is over and once Jazz ceases operation, then phase 2 of the project will commence and the remaining part of the overall project could be developed. Within the development agreement itself, it was approved in 2013. There's a number of public benefits. One is the payment of a public benefit fee of $32,000 per unit with CPI adjustments. That fee is currently approximately $44,000 per unit. The development agreement also requires dedication of 2 public parks, but not only dedication of the land, but actual improvement of the parks themselves and long-term maintenance. It also included the development of 102 affordable units, and then a requirement that private open space be publicly accessible. Related to the park dedication requirements themselves, the project required a total of 13.62 acres of parkland to be provided. As I mentioned in the development agreement, a total of 2 acres of public parks will actually be provided within the development, and the remaining 11.5 acres would be provided via an in lieu park fee of approximately $20,000 per unit. However, the development agreement, the general plan policy, and our municipal code allows for credits towards these in lieu park fees. The big credit is for the full construction and improvement costs of the public parks. They're also allowed to take credit for 30% of the public recreational open space areas and 20% of private recreational amenities. As you can see on the bottom of this slide, this is the examples of what those credits can be provided for. So in that lower left-hand corner, that is the actual park that exists within the one Uptown development or adjacent to it. And then in the middle is the common open space. So these are the publicly accessible paseos that have been provided through the complex. And then on the right-hand side, you can see it's an example of a private recreational amenity. So that's a pool, but that also includes the clubhouses and other communal spaces for the residents. So we've approved 2 credits so far. So in 2017, we've issued a $7.1 million credit for the larger one Uptown Newport apartment complex. They still ended up paying approximately $3 million to the city in the remaining in lieu park credits or park fees, sorry. And then in 2021 was the last credit approved. That was approximately $2.6 million given. And after taking into account their park fee obligations, they're left with a residual credit of $824,000 that, as currently under the development agreement, can be used towards that future phase 2 development. What the applicant is requesting and what the Planning Commission has reviewed and has recommended approval of is to amend the development agreement to allow, to create an allowance within the development agreement that allows the applicant to apply for the application of any excess park in lieu fee credits towards their public benefit fee obligations. So, for example, the 824,000 excess credits that exist today, they could be applied towards the public benefit fee obligations of the Park House project and the Uptown Newport Residences project. The total public benefit fee obligations combined for those two projects is approximately $3.9 million. If the council agrees to allow the credit, they would still be required to provide the remaining public benefit fee of approximately $3.1 million. And so that concludes my presentation. Available for questions, and the applicant is in attendance as well.
Wonderful. At this point, I think bring it back up here. We have any initial questions from the dais before we go to public? Great. Let's run out to public comment. And from the applicant, I think we have a robust staff report. If you have some brief words you'd like to say, that'd be great, but nothing more is necessary.
Good evening, council members, city staff. My name is Brian Rupp. I'm with Shop Off Realty Investments. We are the master developer for the Uptown Newport project. We appreciate staff's hard work in getting this before you tonight. We appreciate the Planning Commission's support. What turned out to be, I think, as staff pointed out, was a simple request. Turned out to be a lot of work for us all, but I think it is relatively straightforward, simply to allow us to use those excess park fee credits towards public benefit fees. And that, as staff pointed out, we still have $3.1 million in public benefits fees, in addition to the $17 million in public benefit fees already paid towards from the initial phase of this development. So I'm here to answer any questions. Appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments on this item?
Acting Chair Blom and members of the City Council, my name is Jim Mosher. My main comment is it would have been useful kind of to have a little table here showing how the calculations work. But one has to extract the numbers out of the text of the staff report, and I found a little confusion about those. On page 16-4, it's saying that the estimated remaining maximum park in lieu fee credit would be the number that was quoted on the slide there, $824,000. And then towards the bottom of the page is there are two paragraphs, one at the bottom of the page, one at the top of the next page, saying how it is proposed to use those credits against the public benefit fee. And the first one says that $299,000 will be used towards the 30-unit project, and the remaining $598,000 will be used towards the 60-unit project. But when you add those two numbers together, that adds up to $897,000, which is more than the credit that they have. So I'm not understanding how you can divide up $824,000 and get two numbers that add up to $897,000. So again, a little table showing how the math works would be helpful. And then the other comment I made, which I tried to make to the Planning Commission and didn't explain very clearly and probably won't hear now, but the Uptown developer is hoping to use this credit now. They have an opportunity apparently already to use it later. And since we were just talking about equity and people being treated fairly, if they got, would they eventually get credit for this, whatever happened? Number one. And number two, are you converting something that was intended to be a non-refundable credit, something that you might not eventually get credit for, into something that you absolutely do get credit for now? And if the original intention was that they're not refundable and you don't get credit for in theory, and then you're giving them quite a handout here, letting them use it. what they might lose later. I don't know if I'm explaining that clearly, but I have that concern. Thank you.
Any other public comments right now? All right, wonderful. And Jim, let me just, I believe the variant in the cost, and staff can probably work with me on this one, is probably the variant in the timing and the adjustment with the CPI going up over the years. But Simone, do you want to jump into that variant real quick?
Yeah, and I would agree with you, Councilmember Blum. So the correct number is $824,000 that was on the screen. It's always referenced in the staff report, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Wonderful. I'll bring the rest of it back up here. And I sit on the small committee with Councilmember Grant on this, and I'll give her the mic in just a moment. But the general idea is that, look, this has been a long-term development in this city, right? When we start seeing numbers like 2013 and we're talking about them now, I think it's amazing for some of us to even contemplate that, because a lot of us, all of us, even Brad, we weren't here at that point, right? Even you, Brad. And in that, it's that we're looking to get, the best shake we possibly can. And sometimes that is about making the deal happen so that we get what we're looking for. And that's the general deal in Newport, right? We love what we're doing. We want to see it built cautiously, in the right way, with the attributes of the community in line. And so, when Councilmember Grant and I worked through this on the small committee, I think that was really what the deal was, is that, look, we'd rather see this actually get built and, the community thrive over there than the antithesis, which is have a vacant lot that adds nothing to the culture of who we are. So I'm going to move it over to Councilmember Grant real quick, please.
Yes, just briefly, I agree with Councilmember Blum. We worked with staff in a small group to look at the different alternatives of ways to analyze this particular issue, and came out with this proposal as being something that we wanted to bring back to council. I absolutely want to commend the Shop-Off company. I appreciate you being here, Brian and Corley, to represent the company. You guys were first out of the gate in many ways, and had faith in our city and the idea that you could bring that kind of development in. I was there for the park opening, as many of us probably were, of the park that we're talking about, where this money was spent. And it was very clear at that time that it was very, well done quality, and you did make an extra investment into that, into those improvements, the park, the parkways, all of that, and it really shows. And that community, I think, really appreciates it. The larger community appreciates the fact that we have those improvements and the quality of the improvements. You didn't try and just get something going. You really invested in our community, and we appreciate that. It's an incredible investment. Obviously, a lot of people live there. A lot of people, visit. I think even some of our city staff might live in that community. So we appreciate the investment that you made in our community, and I'd like to move forward with this as we agreed in small group.
Any other comments from the dais? Wonderful. I'll go ahead and make the motion with staff recommendation on this, with Councilmember Grant seconding it. Go ahead and take a vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for Ordinance 2024-24, an ordinance of the City Council of City of Newport Beach approving of the Second Amendment to Development Agreement DA 2012-3 for the Uptown Newport project located at 4311 to 4321 Jamboree Road. With all the recusals, the motion carries 4-0.
Wonderful. We're going to go ahead and move along without the mayor. He's not coming back at this point. He said he's over this and ready to retire. So, I'm sorry. That's my bad. He's back.
This is actually me running. Just kidding. All right. We're going to move into item number 17. Does anyone need a staff report on this? All right, we'll go out to public comment on this item. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor O'Neill, members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. I see it says up there on the screen, the item you're talking about is establishing or updating the charge that we have for park in lieu fees, which is tied into the item that you were out of the room for just a moment ago. And I did have a number of comments about this. I think updating is a good idea. The appraisals are probably accurate. Although I noticed the section of the code that it's related to, which is Chapter 1952 of our municipal code, probably didn't get all the scrutiny it was expected to have during our comprehensive update of the municipal code not too long ago. It makes reference to a recreation and open space element of our general plan, which our current general plan does not have. One of the sections makes a cross-reference to another section, which I think is wrong. And I just wanted to mention it has a number of interesting provisions in it, which you may or not be aware of. One is these in lieu fees, which will be substantially increasing, are set aside, particularly, especially for park purposes. And that code chapter, not explained here, refers to a council policy B1. And apparently there's a state requirement that you actually have a schedule of where these in lieu fees are going to, what you plan to use them for, and when you plan to use them. That kind of brings up a question about the appraisals, because they're supposed to be used for something specifically benefiting the development. So perhaps the proper in lieu fee would be different in different parts of our city, because property values are different in different parts of the city. But among the interesting provisions of that this is mentioning something about a different treatment of, well, first, I don't quite understand how they're computed, because it's based on number of people, number of residences going into the residential units, but it's triggered only by subdivision, and subdivisions with 50 lots are treated differently than others. I'm not quite sure how the Uptown amount that was previously mentioned was computed, but anyway, it goes into this, supposed to go into the schedule, and B1 says it is the schedule, but it actually has an implementation schedule, and says that more detailed schedule exists somewhere else. I don't know where it is. And there's a provision in it that if the money is not actually committed for the purpose it was going to be used for, it has to be refunded to the developer within 5 years.
It's okay, go ahead and finish, Jim.
Yes. Sorry, I've forgotten the other thing that I wanted to say. Good enough. And anyway, you will be increasing the amount, which I think is appropriate. And thank you for doing that.
All right, thank you. Any other speakers? All right, bring it back. I've taken a look through this one. I tend to agree with Jim that the appraisals look appropriate. I've reached out and talked with some folks to figure out if I tend to agree, and I do. I also agree with the phased-in approach, and so appreciate the outreach that's shown in this staff report, as well as the diligence on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion for staff recommendation. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Blom. Let's go ahead and vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead and go into closed session. Mr. Harp, if you could take us in.
Thank you. The City Council adjourned to closed session to meet regarding the performance of the city manager and to meet with the city's labor negotiators regarding negotiations with the city manager, and that's all set forth on the agenda under items 4A and B. City manager will recuse herself from the labor negotiation portion of the closed session. Thank you.
All right, we will return later. We stand in, well, I guess it's not standing in recess. We will go into closed session. We'll come back. Thanks. All right, ending recess. Mr. City Attorney, just so you know, there is no reportable action. All right, Madam Clerk.
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may be made only by one of the council members voted with the prevailing side. Sorry.
All right, do we have any motions for reconsideration? All right. All right, seeing none, we finally stand adjourned. Thank you.